In today's day and age, this is a stunning act of bravery and, yes, defiance. Two high school track stars refused to stand on the medal podium after placing in the Oregon State Championship for the high jump. Why? Because the athlete standing next to them was a biological male.
Also in fifth place for Miami Wells, Leigh Ann O'Neill. Fourth place honors to Sherwood's Reese Eckerd. In third place from Tigard, Alexa Anderson.
Alexa Anderson and Reese Eckerd placed third and fourth, respectively, but tied for fifth was a trans athlete, Leah Rose. The two teens refused to take their places on the podium and turned their backs to it, quietly protesting a system that forced them and their teammates to surrender spots to a trans. Here to tell her story is Alexa Anderson, along with Jessica Steinman, Executive General Counsel at America First Policy Institute. Alexa, look, you finished ahead of the trans athlete in this case, but there's time and again instances where trans athletes have taken awards and 1, 2, and 3 spots from female athletes. Did you take a stand for them as well?
This was my first time competing against a transgender individual, so this is the first public stand that I have taken in this issue, but I have privately supported all other girls that have done the same with positive messages, commenting on posts, and just supporting them and letting them know I'm behind them in any way.
Alexa, what do you have to say to people watching across the country about the unfairness of this? Why is it unfair?
It's unfair because biological males and biological females compete at such different levels that allowing a biological male into our competition is taking up space and opportunity from all these hardworking women. The girl in ninth who should have been in eighth and had that podium spot had that taken away from her, as well as many others.
In all of those slots, Jessica, whether you're eighth or fifth or fourth, that all works toward, your points and your national standing. And so all of those places matter. People say, oh, she didn't finish first, second, or third, so it doesn't matter. But it does matter. And I think Alexa made that point.
No, it's so important, Laura. And I want to say thank you to Alexa for really standing up for all the courageous girls out there and doing the right thing. And Laura, thank you for bringing attention to this national issue. I think one thing that we've talked about is access to the podium, access to those scholarships. And in this situation, not even just that access, but the First Amendment issue that came about when they were asked to and kind of sidelined from the competition here.
So tell us about that, Alexa. Being in any way ostracized or treated differently because you have a common sense view on this. A lot of young women are afraid to speak out or even do a silent protest.
Yeah, we stepped off the podium in protest. And as you can see in the video, an official kind of told us, hey, go over there. If you're not going to participate, get out of the photos.
So you couldn't even have your moment. That wasn't allowed. You had to stand forward, not your back to it.
Yes, they asked us to move away from the medal stand. So when they took the photos, we weren't even in it at all.
Yes. Well, you don't really deserve to be there because you just worked hard and you competed and you've done it your entire life, by the way, which is a grueling sport that takes hundreds and even thousands of hours to perfect at any level. Jessica, I know America First Legal has filed discrimination actions in these cases. Briefly explain this to us. I think you filed a Title IX case.
Yes. So America First Policy Institute, we filed a complaint with the Department of Education asking them to look into the Oregon Department of Education. Here we're asking, so a Title IX, you're right, Laura, a Title IX violation, so the men and the women's sports. But on top of this, because of this weekend's race, that the women were excused, they were sidelined, they were told to get out of there. We also would like them to look at a First Amendment issue. And Laura, this is, you know exactly this. This is why the First Amendment was created. When a citizen has an issue with their government, especially about their own rights, they should be able to speak out. And these girls were not allowed to speak out.
Well, is there a rule that they had to face a certain way? I bet not. They'll probably write one if there isn't one. But I don't believe there's a rule in this case that you have to stand at a certain angle to be a legitimate athlete worthy of a photo on the podium that you earned your right to be on. Alexa and Jessica, we're following this case very closely. Continue to be a great athlete and a great role model, Alexa, for what you're doing. You're a star. Thank you very much.
Hey, Sean Hannity.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Unleashed with me, Scarlett Johnson, presented by Moms for Liberty. And today I am joined by two extraordinary guests at the center of one of the most important issues in the country right now. And that's about saving girls' sports and living not by lies, by not rejecting truth. And there is a very small part of this country that is just determined to force this agenda down our throats, even though regardless of whether you're Republican, Democrat, left, or right, 80% or more of the country think that biological boys should not be playing on girls' teams. They shouldn't be in the girls' locker rooms or in their private spaces. So this is a topic that is important to me. I have 4 daughters. They all have been athletes or are currently athletes in high school, in college, even in middle school. So this is really important. And so I am really happy to be joined by Alexa Anderson, one of the courageous Oregon teens who refused to be silenced when she stood up for fairness in girls' athletics. They were punished just for peacefully expressing their views when a biological male took a medal that they had rightfully earned. And their willingness to speak truth in this time in their state, in the area that they're at, became just a viral moment, and it defined them in the very best of ways. And I am honored to have Leigh Ann O'Neill, the Chief Legal Affairs Officer at America First Policy Institute. We love you guys at America First. You're doing such great work. You guys are always, always busy. So Leigh Ann is one of the leading minds fighting to restore constitutional rights and protecting women's sports across the country. So thank you, Leigh Ann, for joining. Right now, Alexa is unable to join us because there's been flooding in Oregon and there's a bunch of power outages. So she's going to join us later. But this gives us the opportunity to set up the legal framework, what happened, what you're doing, and what your case looks like right now. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here with you. Yeah, so you described kind of the viral moment. It was at the very end of May. The girls, Alexa and Reese Eckerd, were the 2 plaintiffs in this lawsuit. They were at their state championship track meet. Track and field is like the heart and soul of Oregon, right? I mean, it's Tracktown, USA, where the state championship is held. These girls have trained for years and years and years, dreaming of going to Hayward Field and having their big moment, right, in the state championship. They're both high jumpers, and they did really well. They placed 3rd and 4th. And when the moment came for the medals to be awarded and they were on the podium, they decided to step off the podium as a way of peacefully expressing their viewpoint, which is that males should not be able to compete in sports categories designated for girls.
Yes.
Again, like you said, this is not rocket science. This is not controversial, literally not controversial by any stretch of a reasonable person's standards. I mean, this is an 80-20 issue at least.
Mm-hmm.
And so once they stepped off the podium, they were shooed over to the side by the official and told that they can't be in the pictures. So they weren't awarded their medals. They didn't get to participate in the full ceremony. All they wanted to do was stand in front of the podium and not share the podium, that physical platform there, with a male who had placed 5th. And so it really, it was really, I think, inspiring how, I guess the video, once it was posted on X, just really took off, and people were beside themselves about this, seeing the way that those girls had been literally just, nope, you have to go over here. You can't participate. Too bad you won. You placed, you're not allowed. You're not expressing the viewpoint that we endorse. So you have to go over here. And they just had the support of the nation behind them. And that was very clear. And so we, at America First Policy Institute, we're thrilled to represent them in bringing this lawsuit, which is, very much around the issue of men and women's sports, Title IX. But the cause of action in the lawsuit itself was a First Amendment violation.
Yeah, and I'm noticing your XXXY gear, which I love. I love that. I love her stuff. I love Jennifer Say,
Yep.
and all that she's doing.
This is
But
the Riley Gaines limited edition. Be
oh,
bold.
oh,
Yeah,
that's
I was
awesome.
like quick to buy it right when it came out. I love
Oh
it.
yeah, that's beautiful. I love it. And yeah, I remember watching that viral moment. There was a lot going on because in California, dealing with some of the same issues all over the country, like I said, track and field. And this is a sport where it's a team sport, but they're individuals. I've got kids that my son and my daughters have participated in track and field. And this is an area where the benefit of going through male puberty could not be more evident for when they are competing against a biological girl. The lung capacity, the muscle mass, all of the things. I'm not a doctor. My kids are all in medicine. My son just graduated medical school, so he could tell you all of the details. But it really do. I have to have a doctor come on and tell you that men are bigger, stronger, faster than women. That's just
No,
biological. No,
common sense.
this is common sense. It's not fair. Title IX, you're a lawyer. Why was Title IX created?
To give women equal opportunities in educational settings. And so, it was originally conceived for purposes of kind of evening out the playing field for women to be admitted to universities and colleges. So it's really interesting how the intersection of the sports issue came into Title IX because that was a little bit later. But, we're not operating under the disillusion that females and males' brains operate on different capacity levels. Like I can get a 16, I mean, I can't get a 1600 on the SAT, but females can get a 1600 on the SAT just the same as a male can. However, when your goal is to create equal opportunity in these educational programs for males and females, that means necessarily discriminating on the basis of sex in order to allow sex separated categories for females, which is specifically due to the fact that there are vulnerabilities and disadvantages that females have physically as compared to males. And so Title IX on the one hand is meant to make sure that there's not discrimination against males or females on the basis of admission to university or college settings or participation in programming within the school that has no bearing, isn't subjected to physical, disparities, wouldn't be impacted by differences in biological sex. It's also meant to create a single sex category for both males and females, especially females, because females do have a disadvantage physically as compared to males.
Yeah, and when I've talked to Jennifer Say, I've attended numerous events and hearings and talked to female athletes who came of age during Title IX, and they can remember what it was like before Title IX was instituted and include the fairness for females in sports and after, because there weren't, they didn't exist. There wasn't the funding for female sports, and girls who wanted to compete could not make the team. They could not compete against the males. And frankly, in many sports, if they did, they would be hurt. Like they would suffer injury. So in order for fairness, there had to be equal funding. So if there's men's basketball, there's going to be women's basketball. And so in high schools and colleges, finally, there was the funding for sports. Like they're going to have a men's team, they're going to have a female team. And then there's the protection for women. It was inherently a binary. Title IX was inherently rested on the binary that there's men and women, they're different, but equal. And so there should be equal funding, even though that there's different abilities. And that is physical. Now, as you're talking, when you're talking about as far as mental, the brain, now women outnumber men in medical school. and they are catching up in STEM. Women are, more and more girls are in STEM programs. They are participating equally with men, and a lot of wage disparities that are often touted by the left really reflect the fact that women have children and they choose to sometimes stay home for a little while or work less. Although these days there are a lot of different ways that men and women can participate in the workforce using like we are remote. So
Right.
so that's not as much of a difference. But when it comes to physicality, when it comes to strength, men that go through male puberty, just they have this inherent advantage that cannot be just wished away. You can't pretend it's not there. On top of that, I think that we're seeing more and more. I know I predicted this, and I'm sure you did, and you're seeing that there are predators that are taking advantage of these policies. And so you have full-grown men in Wisconsin going into teenage girls' locker rooms in high schools saying, "I'm a woman." And you've got school officials that are fearful to tell them, "No, you can't go into the female locker room. You can't change there. You can't use female facilities," because they think it would violate their gender policies or the transgender non-discrimination policies. So all the things that they said wouldn't happen, they have happened.
Absolutely. And I would also add, you were talking about, the physical advantages of males having gone through male puberty. Even before going through puberty, there are distinct differences between male and female bodies that give the males an advantage in physicality over females in, several, if not all sports. So I think that that's really important to keep in mind too. Even where we're seeing the kids being trans at earlier and earlier ages, that won't negate the discrepancy, the disparity that then the females are subjected to when those males, enter into sports categories meant for girls, because, there's probably not even any trace left of them ever having been known as a male, with the way the laws are going in some of these states, allowing birth certificates to be changed, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right about, it is of course foreseeable that someone will take advantage of a system, right? We know that the children have been just absolutely lied to. The parents have been lied to. There has been this running trick going on through society and teaching kids and parents. Parents have been victimized by this too, right?
Yes. Yes.
Oh yeah, your son will kill himself if he's not allowed to become a girl, as if that's even, possible. It's not. And it's just been bought hook, line, and sinker. And it's absolutely atrocious that the kids now are the ones having to stand up and fight for common sense, for biological reality. Girls like Reese and Alexa, who stand up and say, "We're getting off this podium. We're not standing here next to this male. We're not doing this. We're not going to pretend like this is normal or like this person is a girl, because he's not. He's a male girl." And so it's just really, it's on the one hand so heartwarming. I'm so proud of these girls for, their courage in standing up, and so many girls have come before them who have laid the groundwork and, helped to encourage them along the way, like Riley Gaines, like Paul Scanlon. Like these women have really shown what it means to be courageous. And I know that that's helped these girls, and bless them for taking up the mantle and standing up for what's right. And we need the adults in the room. Please, adults in the room, stand up. Like, do not be the person who is afraid of objecting to the male, the adult male who says he's a 12-year-old girl. Okay, no, that's not, you're not. No one thinks you are, actually. Don't be afraid to stand up and say, "You can't come in this locker room. This is not happening." Stand in the way, block the door, whatever you have to do. Like, we just can't put this on the kids. It's ridiculous.
Yes. And so yesterday, HHS had a special announcement We were there, we live streamed, and Dr. Jay Bhattacharya said that he discovered upon taking he's just appointed NIH director, that there were studies done during the Biden administration believing that they would prove that these children who suffer from gender dysphoria, that if they, their thesis is that if they aren't affirmed and if they don't get this this sex rejecting care, and that's the term they're using, and I like it, and I'm going to use it, sex rejecting medical care, that they will commit suicide. And they did a thorough study, and what came back wasn't good news for them. It's good news for us. In fact, these kids are not more suicidal, and not, affirming them or not affirming them doesn't really make a difference. It doesn't change. Kids who are suffering from that kind of depression need help. And they're not going to be more or less likely to try to take their own lives, whether or not they are affirmed through this sex rejecting care. And he said, when instead of publishing, they hid that research, they hid that data because it didn't align with their ideology. So now he is finally publishing that data and encouraging peer-reviewed actual science. And he said, listen, as a doctor, as a scientist, if in the midst of this research, I find out that some of my held opinions are wrong, I'm going to change my mind. That's what you're supposed to do. You change your mind when the facts appear. And as a lawyer, you know that, but they refuse. And that's what makes this more like of a religion and an ideology, and not something based in facts and in science. And that's what's harmful to these girls, because they are so committed to the ideology that they're going to allow these girls to not just lose opportunities, but possibly become physically injured and harmed and have lifelong damage, or abused and have suffer lifelong consequences. And that's what scares them.
It is. And, it's incredible. The fact that the evidence does not bear out the lie that has been told, that's still being told to people, students, kids, parents all over the country, right? Like, you have to do this or else suicide, right? The lawyer arguing on behalf of the ACLU in the lawsuit, the Scarametti lawsuit that was, handed down by the Supreme Court last year, he had to admit it to the Supreme Court. He had to say the evidence does not bear this out. Like, there is not evidence that shows that the suicide rate is any more likely if, the gender affirming care is not provided. Change the impact on the suicidality. And so what we're dealing with here is really a messaging war. It's like the gig is up. Like, we know the truth. It's established. It's established in science. It's not difficult to prove. We know WPATH was lying. They were winging it. All of these things, right? So the trick is getting the message out. Understand, like, you've actually been lied to. You've been lied to by your doctors, been lied to by trade organizations that are meant to uphold truth and biological reality and advanced medicine. They've all been lying to you too. And we have to flip the script on this so that average Americans who are suffering, kids who have awkward feelings about their bodies, so on and so forth, aren't then sold this bill of lies continuing to go forward, and they can understand that there's a way for you to accept your body, to not reject your sex. Like you said, I think that the terminology that was used during the conference yesterday is wonderful and is just very to the point. I'm actually really frustrated that none of us came up with that sooner.
I know, it's perfect. As soon as I not heard that term, as soon as I was like, that's perfect. Sex, because you just kind of air quote gender affirming care when you're like, oh, I don't even want to say that, but then I'm like, perfect. And I won't get in trouble on social media because even saying the word mutilation can sometimes like cause your algorithm to be disrupted. So it's perfect.
Not yet. Let's see how long it takes before sex rejecting is like now, flagged and the posts aren't allowed.
You can't say that. So
Let's set the timer.
Now I've got the image here of President Trump right away signing these executive orders. Amazing. All these little girls, several of them are the children of moms and Moms for Liberty. I know a lot of the kids of AFPI parents are there, and all of our partner organizations. And it was a beautiful moment. Riley Gaines, Paula Scanlon, and it's amazing. And he set the tone in the Department of Education, the Department of Justice, we've got HHS, but still, it's still the woke persist. And that's why we need you. That's why we need lawyers. And you do pro bono work. You do this, so like we thank God for you, because it is expensive. Lawsuits are expensive. Legal action is very expensive. So those conservatives, MAGA, finally, we're building our own institutions to combat the ACLU and the unions and the whole, they've got a labyrinth of lawyers, teams, and parents were just left sort of defenseless until you guys came along. So thank you very much. So what are you doing right now, specifically with this case with Alexa, but even broadly, like amicus briefs? What are you as we approach 2026? There's some big cases that are coming before the Supreme Court.
Yes. So Alexa and Reese's case has wrapped up. We voluntarily dismissed that case in agreement with the opposing party because we accomplished what we set out to do there, and that was to give a voice to Reese and Alexa. Their opportunity to share their viewpoint, express their viewpoint, had been taken away from them. They've been retaliated against for doing that. And they got their medals back. It was actually amazing. They were both honored with the Fox Patriot Award, the Most Valuable Patriot Award. And we were able to get the medals for them. And they were, kind of ceremoniously awarded those at that award show, which was really special. And I mean, millions of people have heard their story now and have a better understanding of what's really going on here. And, the injustices and the unfairness that is really being perpetrated against girls in so many states. So we're happy to have that lawsuit wrapped up. We're very happy with the result and just could not be more proud of Reese and Alexa and thankful for them for their bravery and their families for, it's not easy to embark on a lawsuit. You take a lot of heat. It's a lot of work for anyone involved, right? But they were just fantastic.
I know. Yeah, I know. I had 3-year lawsuit to fight for free speech, and I just won my case. You can't, in the midst of all this for 3 years, I could barely talk about it. I couldn't talk about the retaliation, what my family went through, how hard it was. But one thing I can tell you that and we had the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty on our side. Even with that, it is extremely stressful thing. And early on for us, before we had, it can get costly, but you get attacked. You don't know what's going to happen. Everything is in the hands of judges, and you're praying and hoping that things work out. And so it takes a lot of courage to put your name out there. And because they really go after you. So I commend Alexa and Reese and their families because, people lose jobs, people lose friends. And what you're telling, it's absolutely what we have to do as parents. You have to, if something is happening to your child, you have to call AFPI. You have to fill out a legal intake form, and you have to stand up because your kids are watching, and You're building character in them. And I promise you it will work out. You will not regret standing up and fighting for what is right. I have no regrets whatsoever.
That gave me goosebumps. I mean, it's so true. Like the kids are watching. How can we possibly expect teenage kids to stand up for themselves if the adults aren't willing to do it? I mean, we have to build that integrity into our kids and demonstrate for them what courage looks like, and having the conviction, like I know what is right and I know what is wrong, and I'm not going to be silenced by the mob, that's trying to tell me that up is actually down, that the sky is not blue. But we also have another lawsuit out of Oregon, which is, squarely the Title IX lawsuit. And that's based in a lot of the same underlying facts of what Alexa and Reese experienced. In Oregon, of course, if you identify as a male, or if you're a male and you identify as a girl, you can compete in the categories reserved for girls. And so we have a lawsuit on behalf of 3 other plaintiffs in Oregon that's ongoing still, where we've alleged that the policy in Oregon is a violation of Title IX. And it's been pretty wild to see. The leadership in Oregon is absolutely defiant. And it's a pretty spectacular thing to witness. Some of the statements that have come out of that state in the leadership. And so we're very happy to be, standing up with these girls. And like you showed the picture of President Trump with all the girls. That's just an iconic image. I think that image, that might emerge as the most famous image of, this presidency, right? We could go on and on about images of President Trump and how many of them are iconic, and maybe that one won't be the top. But
I really do think it is. And I've been in the White House, and the images from this they're hanging all over. They're very proud of this moment. This is one that is very prominent in the White House. So you see it, and I snapped a picture before they told me I couldn't take any.
I love it. It's so beautiful. It's just
every time I see
it's
it.
breath. I know. I get like really, worked up every time I see it, because so many feelings about it. It's like it's taking the president like very soon into his second term to sit at the Oval Office at the Resolute desk and sign this executive order in a room full of little girls who are looking up to him and depending on him to protect their rights. And it's like, we know what this is. Like, we know that boys should not be competing in girls' sports. Like, why does it take an act of a president and an executive order to show the world what's what? And then now to see some of these elite institutions and leaders of these progressive states just blatantly pushing back. I can't even imagine that they're doing it because they actually believe what they're saying is true. It's just to argue with President Trump. It's horrifying. And it's like, who is losing here? It's not President Trump. It's not them. It's the girls. It's like, what is wrong with people?
They believe this in theory, and then they see the video. And I think people right away, they're like, oh no, because they'll see the video, the volleyball, and this tall 6'4" muscular man that's wearing lipstick and has hair back, but obviously has the masculine features, just pounding. And it's hard to cheer for that. It's because that's just not fair. There's a sense of fairness that we have, especially as Americans. And you're like, that's not fair. And watching a man doing the high jump and just crushing the girls, it's just not pleasant to watch. So I think that's why when we have a face to what's happening, because I've testified enough on this, I've talked to enough people, and they will say, oh, I want to be kind and inclusive and fair. And then when they hear Riley Gaines talk, or they hear Alexa talk, or Maddie or Sophia or one of the many girls that I've been watching in California one by one come to the podium and talk, they're just speechless. They normal people are like, oh, I'm out, half out. Like, in theory, this was a good idea, but in practice, not so much. This isn't fair. So only the true believers hang on. And those are people that have never participated in sports, or if they're like Megan Rapone, they are just so far gone. They're done. She's already accomplished everything she wants to. So she's just going to shut the door behind her, which really upsets me. So she's accomplished all her goals in soccer. So on her way out, let the men come in and crush you.
Pull up the ladder behind her. Yep.
Exactly. And that's really unfair. But Jennifer Say has said it's unfortunate that so far there's only the one, and I forget her name, the one female soccer player that stood up and said, this isn't fair. But that's why Jen Say believes it's going to be the Alexas that are going to change everything, because the Nike won't do anything. And the females, unfortunately, females that are in positions of prominence are too afraid to stand up and speak out. So it's going to take the regular girls, the girls in high school, the girls in college, to say this isn't fair, this isn't right. It's going to take the Riley Gaines, more and more of them. We need more and more of them, because that's how we end this.
Yeah, the normies, the kids who are normies, they're being brought up by normies, and they're watching and listening to what's happening, and they know. I mean, they can see. Ask any 9-year-old about this, and the answer is obvious, right? Like, it's not. They haven't been infected. Their brain has not been infected to a place where they have the ability to even rationalize the total nonsense that's being shoved down people's throats. And so they'll look at you like you're crazy if you say that a boy is a girl. I mean, they just know it's nonsense. And they're going to be, like you said, they're going to be the ones who come up and they're going to say, nope, we're not doing this.
I may be censored for saying this, but I can't help but think of Kindergarten Cop, where the little kid is like, boys have a penis and girls have a vagina.
Totally.
Like, that's what it is. Like, it's real. Like, 5-year-old can understand it. That's the way it is. Real quickly before we go, and when we're going to come back with Alexa tomorrow, she's going to be in a place where she'll have power. I wanted to talk about how there are 2 oral arguments are going to be heard in 2 big cases that center around sex-separated sports. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the question is that having sex-separated sports does not violate the 14th Amendment Equal Protection Clause. That's the question going before the courts. Is that correct?
Right. Exactly. That's exactly right. So the cases are out of Idaho and West Virginia, and both of those states have laws that require the sports to be sex segregated based on biological sex, male, female, and so both of those laws have been challenged. They have wound their way up through the courts, and the Supreme Court took them up. They'll be heard kind of as, sister cases, if you will, both on the same day, very similar, not exactly the same question on both of them, but very, very similar. So they're being combined for those reasons into the same day. And so that's happening on January 13th. And, we'll get a decision from the Supreme Court in June. And so really what we can expect to see from the court, I think I'm extremely confident that that it is 100% constitutional for a state to require sports to be sex segregated. I think we'll hear from the court that the level of judicial scrutiny afforded to gender identity is going to be rational basis. We've seen signals of that already versus any kind of judicial scrutiny based on biological sex gets a higher level of scrutiny, and that will sort out the issue of whether, so many states, 20 plus states have adopted laws that prohibit males from competing in girls' sports. Some of them are maybe still waiting to see what the court says on this. And so I'm very confident the court will uphold the Idaho and West Virginia laws, and they might even go a step further and wade into what does Title IX require? Does Title IX require sex segregation in sports? And so that would be wonderful. We'll get there. But if they do, that's going to settle the issue, everywhere that Title IX funds are taken. So included in Oregon. So
Yeah, that's
we
what
anticipate
how would that affect your case in Oregon?
it could, if the court, they like to consider the most narrow version of what's asked of them and rule on that, right? So if they do, though, go so far as to rule on what Title IX requires, then it would resolve our case. I mean, we would be winning. So
It would
that
be
would be
huge in the
fantastic.
7th Circuit in Wisconsin. It would finally we've got this ruling that kind of hangs over us, and it's still, that doesn't mean that school boards and the state could not, that they could not of their own volition say we are going to have sex segregated spaces and sex segregated sports. But there is a little room there where we've got, woke attorneys coming in saying, you'll get sued. You need to ignore President Trump. Yet the same people that were like, you have to follow Biden's change his Title IX 1,500-page redefinition right now, or you lose funding. Those same people are like, nope, you don't have to follow the guidance of the Department of Education, Department of Justice, or follow the executive orders. And so they're hoping, they're just hoping to wait it out. They're hoping to just keep things going long enough before, like, they could, win in 2028 and then come back with a vengeance. So that's why it's really important legally. We get this kind of legal precedent, it'll be much harder no matter what happens. I predict we're going to win in 2028, but no matter what, we need this legal precedent.
Absolutely. And that's why the lawsuits are so important, asking the question different ways. Anything that can be done to ensure that the Supreme Court does have to go ahead and answer this question. I'm, very hopeful that it's coming very soon. And without, the bravery of the girls who have stood up, the Rileys, the girls who have come after her, to be brave enough to stand up, to do something so unpopular, especially in states where it is third rail, to be the one to stand up against this. But without them, this would just spiral, and it would, would keep going. It would never end.
Absolutely. We have Moms for Liberty members who signed on to our case with the Southeastern Legal Foundation and YAF opposing Title IX in the rewrite from Biden in K through 12 and in universities. And the kids were bullied. Some had to leave their schools. The parents, because these were all parents and families in blue states, deep blue states like Oregon, where they are the minority in some districts, believe it or not. I do think the majority of people, when you really talk to them, they agree, but there is a loud and vocal majority of radicals that just run everything, and everyone's just cowering and afraid, unfortunately. Well,
It's absolutely true.
we'll come back to this discussion tomorrow.
Yes.
I've got to go to my daughter's classroom and
That's so much fun.
Yes, I will. So we'll talk to you tomorrow, Leigh Ann. Thank you so much.
Good. Thank you.
We'll bring on Alexa and continue this discussion. It's been great. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Just the beginning.
Yeah.
So hi, Alexa. So I was asking, what are your plans for the holidays? You're home?
Yes, I got home from college about a week ago, so I'm back with my family and just enjoying it, hanging out with everybody, eating good food. We finished decorating a couple days ago, so that's always fun.
Oh,
you know?
that's fun. Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, my daughter comes into town, and that and her husband and the baby. So very excited. I've got more presents. Santa has lots of presents for my 2-year-old.
Oh, I bet. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's
That's gonna
gonna
be
be
so much fun.
can a 2-year-old have 2 riding cars? That's
They
well,
can never be too spoiled, you know? Might
yeah,
as
I
well.
know. The first grandchild, like, so all the family, so like he's the pampered prince of the family, so that's nice.
Oh.
All right, so introducing, I'm going to start by introducing, we like jump right into conversation, but
Okay.
so I was just talking with your attorney, America First, who she's amazing, Leigh Ann O'Neill. She's the chief of legal affairs. She's the chief of legal affairs officer for America First Policy Institute. And we had a great conversation talking about the whole issue that we're dealing with gender identity being considered by a few, but they have a lot of power to be a category covered by Title IX instead of the binary, the male female. And
Yes.
so we had a great conversation. But so now, Alexa, now that you're somewhere where you have power,
Yes.
you didn't yesterday, Oregon, there's been a lot of mother issues with Mother Nature and power out all over, and there was no internet connection. So you were supposed to join, but then couldn't because could not find anywhere where you could get a signal. So
Yes.
now we're talking to you today about the legal action that was taken, why, and the happy outcome. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But for those who don't know your story, you are one of those courageous Oregon girls, teenagers, who stood up for fairness in girls' athletics. You and your teammate Reese were punished when you peacefully expressed your views after a biological male took a medal that a female had rightfully earned, and you were willing to speak out in this moment. This was in June of last year, correct?
Yes, I believe it was in late May, early June.
Late May and early June. And this kind of sparked a national conversation. And here you are today. Now, back then you were a senior in high school. Now you are a freshman in college in Alabama. And so thank you for making the time to come on the show. I know that you've got a lot going on for the holidays, but could you tell us again, from your perspective, what happened leading up to this track meet, and then the events of that day and what happened afterwards? So I'm going to let you talk now.
Yeah. So at the beginning of my senior year track and field season, I was made aware that there was an athlete from another school who had competed as a biological male in the male category the previous year, and this year was entering into the female division. And I personally just felt that this was really unfair and unsafe, and this was going to lead to a lot of bigger issues in women's sports of compromising the integrity and fairness of all we've worked for. And that I believe that we deserve protections in our sports and who's allowed to be in them. So I competed my whole normal season. I never personally competed against this athlete until the 2025 track and field state championship meet. I knew that they were going to be there, and so did everyone else. We all kind of showed up. It was the beginning of a normal meet. We all kind of just went about everything. But when it got time to go on the podium, Reese Eckerd and I kind of just felt that this wasn't fair, that we had been failed by the people in charge, that we were not protected, our sport was not protected, and the people who were allowed in it was just completely unregulated. So we decided to take a stand. We took a step off the podium just to send a signal that this wasn't a fair meet, this wasn't a fair competition between biological females, and that we wanted protections in these sports in order for all other girls to never have to face something like this. I'm sorry, I think you're muted.
See, that happens. I mute myself to make sure that when I'm talking, and then I forget. My kids wish they could mute me probably more, but so we've got an image here, and this is this is an iconic image now of you and Reese. There you are, like you peacefully protested. You just didn't go on the platform to get your medal. Out in solidarity for the female who wasn't up there because a biological male took her place. So very a peaceful, respectful way to just to say this is something I don't think is just.
Yes, exactly. We weren't out here being hateful. We don't direct any hate towards anyone who was on that podium. We just wanted to get the attention of the adults who are in charge and let them know that us girls, the ones who compete in these sports, we want protections to keep our sports safe and fair.
Yeah, and you did get their attention.
Yes,
You
we did.
get attention because actually massive attention because what happened when you did this? Because unbeknownst to you, I'm sure you do this and you think I'm just doing something I think is right. But as we all have these cell phones, others recorded this and it went viral, right? All of a sudden, when did you first realize you just went viral?
It was the next morning after the meet. I had kind of woken up and I had a bunch of text messages, a bunch of screenshots of people saying, Riley Gaines reposted what happened on X. Like, Riley Gaines is saying this. Like, just a bunch of people were seeing our video, seeing the photos, and they were understanding and supporting what we were doing. I was like, oh my gosh, so many people are out here supporting us. They understand what we did and why. And it was amazing. Never something I thought was
Riley
going to
Gaines
happen.
has like 1 million followers, and so when she reposts something, it goes viral very quickly. But and I was just so immediately after this, I did a search and I found on Facebook, just the early reports of what happened, and there were a bunch of young women that were saying, this is so great. 2 female athletes refused to stand on the podium after a biological male placed in the Oregon girls high jump state championships. There was another one that said, 2 seniors stepped down from their podium spots and turned away from the ceremony in solidarity with women and girls. And the facts are that this person competed in boys events on the JV team in 2023, 2024, finishing last in the boys high jump competition. And then in 2025, he says, oh, I feel like a girl now. And he's winning events, the girls high jump in Portland Interscholastic League varsity relays, beats 18 girls in one particular event. So this is a male who was placing last when in the male category, but kind of running away with awards in the female category. And that doesn't seem very fair.
No, I completely agree. And it's the people in charge who have allowed this to happen, who have said that us girls, our fairness and our equality in our sports doesn't matter as much as the inclusivity of the trans athletes. They're saying that our rights are less than, that we don't have as much impact, we don't have as much pull. So they've just kind of taken away our rights and said anyone can compete in your category if they identify as a female. And that just goes against the reality of biology and the abilities and the differences between men and women.
Yes. And so going back, so you've been athletic all of your life. So what sports have you played or been involved in? What sports have you been involved in? The teams that you've been in? How long have you been participating in athletics?
I have been an athlete, I think since the day that I could walk. I was a competitive gymnast for about 9 years, from the time I was 6 to about 15. And then I'm 6 feet tall. I'm a little bit tall to be a gymnast. So I switched over to track and field and volleyball. So I've always been involved in athletics. It's been a huge part of my life, a huge part of making me the person that I am today.
And so, and now in college, what sport are you playing in college?
I am a Division I track and field athlete at the University of South Alabama, where I compete in the events of pole vault and high jump.
Okay. So track and field, that's great. I love track and field. It's fun. And
It is.
and you know what? Because my daughter's been on track team, my son cross country, and the kids are great. First of all, they're really busy and they can't get into trouble. But the girls are so down to earth. I love, like, they're just, they're fit, healthy, and they're just really nice and down to earth, and very supportive of their other teammates. I think sports are wonderful for all kids. You want all
Yes.
kids to be involved in sports, even if it's rec, because it's good. So many lessons and learning, because you lose a lot, right? So you learn
Yes.
to be a good loser, you learn to be a good winner, and you learn how a competition hones skills, and also just helps you to early on accept that not everything's always going to go your way, and you're going to have to work really hard, and sometimes there's just someone else that's has just more ability. So you already accept that. What you
Yes.
don't accept is when there is this inherently unfair advantage when a biological male is now competing in all female categories. And the reason why there are male and female categories is because there are biological differences. So
Yes.
just we don't have to have degrees in biology to understand as an athlete, as someone who's been an athlete since you could walk, what are the differences between a male and female athlete?
There are so many differences between male and female athletes, and there are things you even notice from a young age. I remember being a young gymnast. I was like 6 or 7 years old, and I was always annoyed. I'm like, why are the boys able to do 50 pull-ups and I can only do like 5? I don't understand. We're the same age, we train the same amount, and I kind of had to learn that's the biological difference. Biological boys will tend to be stronger, faster, their testosterone levels help them recover faster. They're going to be taller. They're going to be bigger. They have a different bone structure, so their body mechanics move completely differently. There's just so many things that separate them into another category because we are born differently. If you have XX chromosomes versus if you have XY chromosomes, you're very different in the way that you're built, in the way that your body works, the way that you put on muscle, the way that you're able to move and use your body. It's just completely different.
Yeah, and that's interesting that you say that, so that at 7 years old, you already notice. So lots of times there'll be so-called experts that say, well, if you don't go through male puberty, but before puberty, boys already are stronger. They can faster. They're able to do certain things that females can't. This has nothing to do with that they're smarter. This has nothing to do with intelligence, IQ, ability to learn things. It's just about a physical reality. Like, you're 6 feet tall, I'm 5'3". We
Yes.
could pretend that's not a reality. I could pretend that I could do a great layup, but you're going to have you're just gonna have a better ability. Like in volleyball, I was not so good at volleyball. I'm 5'3". That's just, I could work really hard and be the best that I could be for my weight, for my height. But when somebody has, that the height, it can be challenging. So I think we have to be aware of these inherent biological differences. And
Yes.
it doesn't make you a sore loser. Like Ocasio-Cortez will say, like, to Riley Gaines, well, maybe if you just would have trained harder, you could have beat that male that had huge, huge advantages.
Yeah, at this point, between men and women, it's no matter how hard as a female you train, the likelihood of you being better than an average male athlete is so low. If you look at the world records in the women's like elite 100 meter, the world record for that is the same time that a good 15 to 16-year-old boy can run. Like that's just the reality of it. These elite female runners are about the same as a high school boy, just because that's what they're
Oh,
capable of.
hold on 1 second. We have to. I didn't realize my camera went out because I was looking at the notes. I do know when it went out. Did you? All I have to do. It's fine. Here, I'm going to pause because that's so just fine. So we were talking about the inherent biological differences and that they do exist. It's like I said, you don't have to have a degree in biology to understand this, and that these differences are apparent even at a very young age. Like you said, at 7 years old, you noticed that when you were as a gymnast, there were things that a boy your age that practices as much as you do can do 50 pull-ups and you can do 5. And you're wondering why at first, because even then maybe you're the same height and
Yeah.
you're like, wait a second. And sometimes lots of girls are taller than boys until they like hit puberty, and then boom, like I was just volunteering in my daughter's 8th grade class, and I'm telling you, in the span of a year, they're all like, I'm like, what happened? They're like 6 feet tall, and their
Yeah.
voices all like mine right now because I just got over a cold.
Ugh.
They're creaky voices, and they're kind of in that in between stage, and it's funny. I was telling my friend, like, your son, like overnight, just he was like a little like a little dude. My daughter was taller than him, and now he's just like boom, shoot, just shot up. So then as adolescence, puberty hits, then really then men really, that's when those differences become even more pronounced, because when girls go through puberty and boys do, there's like some different things happening because we're different, because we
Yes.
have reproductive organs in which we have to carry a child and all of that, and so our bodies change. And a lot of girls in this stage, I know, that's an awkward stage. I don't know many girls that are at 13 are like, I love my body, I love what's happening to me. Especially when you're a tomboy. I was more of a tomboy, and I was like, I hate what's happening to me. Why is it happening? I want a sweatshirt on. I don't want to have breasts. I want to play with the boys. And
Yeah.
then one day you're 15 and you're like, I like being a girl. It's great.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a hard period of your life. I mean, for both sexes, when you're growing up, it's everyone has that awkward stage. Everyone's a little uncomfortable in themselves and just trying to figure out who you are and how to be comfortable with yourself again.
And I've heard you say before that during this time, adults should be sensitive to children, but guiding them, understanding that the teenage brain, the preteen brain it's not a fully mature, developed brain,
Yeah.
able to that doesn't have life experience and doesn't have the ability to reason and understand things the way that a mature adult can. So adults, when they are dealing with these kids that are suffering from this confusion, this dysphoria, it's their job as adults to help them and to help them manage those feelings that they're having, and not to affirm something that is that's going to eventually cause harm and require medicalization that will cause permanent lifelong damage. You wouldn't affirm someone suffering from anorexia or bulimia or severe mental illness where they're hurting themselves. You don't affirm that. You try and help the kids. You're compassionate. In the situation with gender dysphoria, it's different. Adults aren't doing their job. I don't think that they're protecting those that are afflicted and feeling all of this discomfort, nor are they being fair to the majority around these, these kids, teens, adults, who they're just trying to figure things out for themselves too. And they're just trying to get through life and play a sport, go to gym, go to the locker room. They're just sort of trying to get by too.
Yeah. As a fellow teenager who's gone through all those changes, who's very recently just working on discovering myself and figuring out who I am, I'm not someone who's going to come out here and tell you how you can or cannot live your life or how you should or should not see yourself, because that's not my business how you choose to live your life. But what is my business is how other people's life choices negatively impact me and other girls and our opportunities.
Yeah.
And that does stem from the people in charge who haven't taken the protections to protect us or haven't stepped up and said, there are transgender people out there. There's a growing transgender population. How are we going to protect the biological girls and keep things fair and equal for them? That isn't a conversation that has been had, and those protections aren't in place.
And what's interesting, Alexa, is that there's been studies now released showing that those who are identifying as trans is plummeting. That which falls in line with the Abigail Schreier's theory that there was kind of mass event where, whether it was social media, access to computers, iPhones at an early age, COVID, because a lot of this stemmed even before COVID. So, but for reasons that we are still learning about, and we need to look into in a scientific way, not with any sort of ideology or previously held belief, just to really look at the facts and look at studies and analyze what exactly happened, that there was this spike in identification as what those with various gender identities as transgender or non-binary or something like that, that there was this spike. And now since 2023, 2024, now it's on the decline. And in every category, they were showing that less and less teens are identifying. Many who did identify are no longer. They're sort of like they're now comfortable in their body. They're comfortable with their biological sex. Many turn out to be same-sex attracted, and that's why we work with Gays Against Groomers so often, because my friends in the gay and lesbian community feel that if they were 12 years old in 2020, that they may have been targeted as trans, and instead they're different and they're same-sex attracted, and there's no one way to be a boy or a girl. You could be a boy who loves to cook, who loves fashion. You could be a girl who loves cars and wants to, and likes wearing jeans more, and it doesn't mean anything. That is more of a personality. That is more of kind of who you are. That's not another biological sex. It's just what makes you unique, what makes you you. And whether it's biology or influence, if you hang out with your dad more and you have a lot of brothers, or have a lot of sisters and you're close to your mom, or I thought we had gotten to this place, as I'm an adult, I'm older than you, where we no longer cared about labels. Like, you're free to be who you are, and whatever, if you're a man, you it's okay if you want to go in fashion design. In fact, a lot of the best fashion designers are men. And and if you're a woman, you can be an astronaut and you can be a mechanic. You can break those barriers. That was the whole point. Now we're telling boys that like to cook, you're 3 years old and like to cook, maybe you're trapped in the wrong body. You're a girl that likes cars and not dolls, you're trapped in the wrong body. I mean, that to me is terrifying as a mom of 5 kids, because it's just because a boy is playing with dolls isn't a sign that they're trapped in the wrong body. It's just a boy playing with dolls. That's it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm a huge believer in be who you want to be, love who you want to love, everything like that. But at such a young age, when kids are so impressionable, if you're presenting them with all this information, it gets confused in their brains. They don't understand. If you tell them, oh, girls like to cook, girls like to wear dresses, and there's a boy who sees his mom in a dress, is like, oh, I want to wear a dress. And then you're telling him that that means he's a girl, that's going to
Mhm.
get really confusing in such a young kid's mind. They're not going to really understand that decision. They're going to think, oh, then I'm a girl, but they don't understand what that means. They don't understand biological sexes. They don't understand that. It's almost like a form of sexism in a way, the like
Yeah.
extreme sexism, where before we had women are for cooking, cleaning, dresses, that kind of stuff. Men are for construction, blue collar jobs, all this. And now it's almost the same thing where it's like, if your personality leans one way, that makes you a boy or a girl. You can't be
Mhm.
a feminine guy, you can't be a masculine girl. You
Yep.
it's almost saying you have to switch. You can't be a feminine guy, you can't be a masculine girl. You're in the wrong
Yeah.
body. And for such young kids, I know if I was 8 years old, I refused to wear dresses. I only wore leggings and athletic jackets. I love to hang out with the guys. I love to go throw a football, try to do all that kind of stuff. If someone had told me, "Oh, that's a guy thing. You're a guy," then 8-year-old me would be like, "Oh, okay." Just
Mhm.
because I wouldn't have understood. So at
Yeah.
such a young age like that, presenting those kind of things to such a young kid just gets so confusing in their brain because they can't comprehend it. I don't think it's something that we should be doing.
Yeah, they can't. This is a social experiment that is going to it is causing a lot of harm already. It's something we've never done before in, recorded human history, where we are coaching very small children to to me it seems like coaching them when you I have countless examples, but one more recently was a mom called me and said that her 5-year-old son came home and said, "Mom, did you know that I can decide to be a girl?" And she said, "No, you can't." And he's like, "Yes, I could. My teacher said, we read a book and said that I can put on a dress and just decide to be a girl and be a princess and be a girl." And she asked me what to do. And I said, "Pull your kid out of that school." That to me is, you know, you've they've now crossed such a threshold that you complain, you do what you need to do. But I personally would just pull my son out and say, "Nope, I am not. This is this is this is absolutely unacceptable." And it turned out that this was happening during library time. I have volunteered in classrooms enough, I'm sure your mom did as well, where you go to the library, you supervise, you help the kids pick out books, and then I would read to them and, read Goodnight Moon and there's countless, I have like Dr. Seuss, lots of different great books. But reading to kids, me and my gender dysphoria monster, reading to them books where there are drag queens and storylines where the kids, very little kids, are coming out to their parents as transgender, and then everyone's celebrating. I just think that if you've got a kid that's autistic, a kid that doesn't fit a certain kind of mold, maybe that you have a girl that is more of a tomboy, and she already feels a little like, I don't fit in with the other girls because I like these different things. Then this messaging that, oh, well, then maybe you're in the wrong body. And then the celebrating, then the cheering, and the yes, we're here for you. For a kid, that's just like, that to me, that is so dangerous and wrong. Um, and I think you've said this, if you were an adult and you feel this way and you're struggling and you get help and you make these decisions. Adults can make these choices. And
Yes.
I really, in the past, I have not cared one bit. You just can't ask for me to participate and to deny biological reality. That in the past, I probably would have been like, oh yeah, you do you, whatever. But I worry now because it's like, well, now I want to go into the bathroom with your daughters and I want to have access to the spaces that you and your daughters are in. And then I want to compete in sex separated categories in athletics. And then I'm like, wait a second. Now
Yeah.
that's too far because that's not fair. And as Jennifer says, this is a totally one-sided thing happening in athletics. There aren't girls that are competing on male teams. It is unilaterally right now males that are competing, winning, taking opportunities and awards away from biological females. And so this to me seems very much a modern day feminist crisis, that this is really happening to only women when it comes to athletics. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I completely agree. Going back to a lot of what you just said, I totally agree. Schools are somewhere where they should be teaching math, teaching science, how to read, how to write. Cultural and beliefs and all that kind of stuff is something for a parent to teach their kids at home. You don't want your kid coming home and it's not something you teach them. Like maybe they're being taught a different religion than what you preach and stuff like
Mhm.
that. That is not something that should be taught in a public school. So
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. And if you are a fully grown, competent adult, you know what you want with your life and you decide that you want to be transgender because that's how you will be happiest. I completely support that. You have one life, live it the way that you will be happiest. But what I do not support is these men that see our sport as an opportunity. Some of them don't even identify as transgender. They just see our sport as an opportunity for them to compete, for them to stir the pot to be like, oh, maybe I'm not as good as a male. I'm going to compete in the female category. I've had so many guys come up to me jokingly saying, oh, it's that easy? I just have to say I'm a girl and I can come compete against you guys?
And it
I just don't
really
think that
is
should be
that easy.
possible.
It really
Yeah.
is that easy in Oregon. It's that easy. You can just say there is no they aren't I wouldn't agree with this anyway, but they're not um testing to see where their hormone levels are, their testosterone levels. They're just saying, I am a girl, and grow out their hair. And, sometimes not even that. And
Yeah.
then I identify as a female. It's that easy. They're,
Yes.
early on, I think maybe 2016, there was supposed to be testing requirements and proof that for 1 year you've been taking some kind of hormone or, puberty blocker. But now you just have to say, I identify as a female. And you just have to say, I identify as a female, and you have access to female bathrooms, female locker rooms. That's it. I identify. You just say the words and they can't question it. And
Yeah.
that is and I think a lot of people don't know that. I think a lot of people think, oh, these poor kids, they've 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 now been taking these hormones, they've been doing this and that. They're identifying and they just want to participate in sport. First of all, I would disagree with that premise that because studies have shown you cannot erase away that biological advantage with hormones, with puberty suppression and hormones. You just can't. It's just biological. It's built in. There's no, and there were, I believe, 33 studies proving this.
Yeah.
But even if that was the standard, they're no longer even bothering with that standard. They're just like, all you have to do is identify as non-binary or
Mhm.
demisexual or all these other terms that they have. And that just kind of invites predators, and it invites saboteurs guys that just want to go in and watch girls change. You know, they're just like, oh yeah, I'm a female. And then they sit and they ogle and stare at the girls as they change. And this is happening time and time again all over the country. And I think people don't understand that. They're told a whole different scenario. And then they say, oh, don't listen to Alexa, she's a bigot. Don't listen to Scarlett, she's just a bigot. That's not really happening until it happens and they see it for themselves, and then suddenly there's a change of heart.
Yeah, in Oregon, the only regulation that we have on competition in sports is that you cannot compete in the opposite gender during the same season. So if you were to compete in men's football, which is a fall sport, you can't compete in women's volleyball, which is also a fall sport. But you can compete in men's football and then women's basketball because it's a winter sport. So that is the only regulation we have. It's not even within the same year. It's just within the season. We have fall, winter, spring. You can compete with a different gender within all three of those. You just have to identify. And that just opens up this whole world of opportunity from people who don't have pure intentions, who see this as an opportunity to take advantage of girls, take advantage of our sports. And that's just not right. We need protections and we need to feel safe and secure within our sports and who's allowed to be in them.
This is the moment I want to clip this right here because I can't believe what you just said happens in Oregon. I was unaware of this, that a male can compete in a male sport like in the fall, and then a female sport in the spring. So they can compete in football, male football in the fall, and the spring they can say, oh, I identify as a female in track and field.
Yes.
That just shows you there is no basis in reality. This is all ideology, that this is all just appeasing activist groups, because that makes no sense. And it just shows that all that someone has to do, all that a male has to do is say, well, I didn't get any playing time on the football team, and I really need a scholarship to get to college. So I'm going to identify as a female and compete in the girls' track and field events, win, and that should set me up for college really nice. That's appalling. That's appalling. And I never heard that before, and I think that's just shocking. I just, in Oregon, man, Oregon, I just imagined like all the nature lovers and all the, like, it's good and wholesome, but there's some areas, closer to Portland, like where they've just lost their minds.
There's a very loud minority of people in Oregon who just have these loud voices and they have this power, and they're taking away our women's rights that we've fought so long for, our Title IX rights that we fought for. They're being diminished. Instead of sex-based discrimination, they're changing it to gender-based discrimination. And they're saying, well, gender is, you can identify as one gender one day and then another the next. So there's no rules, there's no regulations.
In your opinion, some of the loudest voices, have they ever participated in athletics? Do you think that they've ever competed at, not, and I wouldn't even say at an elite level, but competed in high school athletics on a team, competed in collegiate athletics? Because from what I've seen, the loudest voices, they'll even admit, well, I've never played a sport before. I heard one legislator said, I play sports, and he was saying on Xbox. He plays sports on Xbox, and that's how he knows, and he identified as a female. And so I started laughing, like, is this for real? Like, you play Xbox sports, virtual sports, and they're there, and he's like, in the virtual world, everything's even. I'm like, sure it is. Like, come on, you cannot be serious. We're talking about in real life, with real human beings. You can't say that a male. I'll tell you. I actually had someone someone say to me that it was she who said she identifies as she uses the pronouns she, her, he, him, they, them, Zer. Every day she wakes up and decides what she's going to identify as. And I'm dead serious. I actually recorded this. This is what she said. And she said, like, so what if there's a 6'4", 200-pound male basketball player? You just got to work harder. You just got to be faster. And she was responding to me testifying that my daughter, who plays basketball, who is 5'6" and 100, and I won't say her weight, but she's smaller. If she's playing against a 6'4" guy that's 200 pounds, he's going to dominate and possibly harm her. And so her response was, well, I'm sorry, your daughter's not a better basketball player. She's just got to try harder. She's got to be faster. So I said, have you ever played basketball in your life? Like competitively? She's like, no. I'm like, yeah. Because only someone who has never competed, who hasn't spent, the vast majority of their life, like my daughter, since kindergarten, competing. Like at first, they're all the little kids like chasing the ball. Like, it's funny when they're first playing basketball, even volleyball, I'm sure, like they all just run towards the ball. To where she is now, a junior in high school, sacrificing all her summers, AAU. When other kids are having parties, she is at practice or she's training. This morning she got up early because she had to go to practice and then lift weights. And Sunday, she's going to practice tomorrow. And then she has a game Monday. She's got 2 days off over Christmas break. 2 days. That's what she gets. And she has to train the whole time. So when you do that, then come back to me and tell me how, if you're going to compete against a male, how you just have to just train harder. And too bad for your daughter. She's just not good enough. As a mom, I had to suppress my urge to I
bet.
I was like, okay, God, like, Lord, help me. I'm going to be a joyful warrior here. But I realized that I really looked at this person and I thought, this is, I bet, someone who just, I think just someone who has had struggles in their life and their empathy has been weaponized, that they don't seem like a bad person, that they're just so, they're just so wrong about things that I don't know how I could ever really change their minds, but I didn't hate them. I just thought, boy, there's so much you don't know, and you're very proud of that ignorance. And I don't really know what else to do. I mean, what do you do? I'm talking a lot. What do? You have to have been faced in these same situations.
Yeah, I have a lot of people that come after me really hatefully, really aggressively, and at this point, I try to explain my side. I try to explain where I'm coming from because I think in our society, it's so important to be able to communicate, even when you disagree with someone, to be able to hear their side and try to understand, like, okay, why do you think that? Because that leads to mutual understanding. But what I found is when I do that, people are so quick to jump to all this hate. They're quick to jump to you're transphobic, you're homophobic, you're hateful, all this kind of stuff, when that is not where I'm coming from at all. So I've learned to just let people know, like, hey, I respect your opinion. I don't agree with it. And this is my opinion. And that's how it's going to be. We're not going to agree. And that's okay. So that's how I've learned to deal with it. Because, like you said, a lot of the people who disagree in this issue are ones who don't really understand. They're people who haven't been in the world of sports their whole life like we have, and they just don't know what that looks like and what the biological difference within sports looks like, and they're not people who want to try to understand it either. So at that point, there's really nothing we can do besides say, I don't agree with you, and that's okay. I still respect you. I still see you as a human being.
Yep. It's there was a viral moment at Target where an employee was wearing a red Charlie Kirk shirt. I don't know if you saw this. And a woman was following her around with the phone, swearing at her, calling her a loser, saying she's stupid, using the F word, like, and this is clearly a woman, a Christian woman. And she just said, please stop following me. Please leave me alone. And she's like, why are you wearing that shirt? And she said, you're a bigot, you're a home, you're this. And she's like, no, I'm not. Please leave me alone. And finally, this, and it was an elderly woman, a Target employee. And she finally said, I'm sorry, we disagree. Have a nice day. I'm going to leave. And so this went viral. And the person who recorded is the one that everyone is looking at like, you're a bad person. The way that you handle this, like maybe you have a problem. We'll go talk to a manager. Pull her aside without a phone and say, this kind of upsets me, but it's a free country and you can do what you want. But
Yeah.
the way that she handled it was inspiring. And that's the way that I try to handle it. It sounds like you. You're going to come at me. I'm just going to smile, say like, you know what? Have a nice day. I'm sorry. Like, please leave me alone. I'm just trying to live my life too. And that's what we have to do. Because the other side, they're trying to get that reaction from you because, I don't know, my dad said misery loves company. He used to always say that. And I believe it. Unhappy people want to make other people unhappy. And I'm not going to let them have that kind of power over me. And I'm not going to let them trigger me so that they can have their moment and then try to embarrass me. You, like me, we're visible, we're leaders. So we have to hold this standard, or we'll let a lot of people down. And you do a very good job. And you have to, but you're very young. I'm so grateful for you, but you're very young to have to do that. And I wish more adults were as vocal as you are. But
Thank you.
the adults can't do what you can do because you are you're a victim, although you won't have a victim mentality. So that's great. But you experienced this. And your voice, you're young, attractive woman and well spoken, but you have this story that I can't tell. I can tell a story, but I can't tell your story. So we need more girls like you to stand up and tell that story. Because when, like with Chloe Cole, like with Riley Gaines, with Luca Hines, with Prisha, with so many, you attract attention because you make it real for people. It's no longer just a hypothetical. Like you make it very real. And that's why it's so important. So what do you say to girls, wherever they are, whatever state? I know in Illinois, there's a lot happening to the borders, Wisconsin, to girls that are experiencing this injustice, but they're afraid. They think, I don't want to lose friends. I don't want to lose opportunities. I've worked so hard to be an athlete. If I say something, what if I can't compete? What do you say to them?
My message to all the girls out there who have faced something similar would just be to remember that you matter and that you deserve a space to feel safe, to feel protected, that your sports are your place to be, to belong, and that we are the girls in those sports are the ones that have to stand up to protect them. That you might lose some friends along the way, but you're going to gain so many more that have your back and see you and support you and will be there for you no matter what, because those are your true friends. And when you stand up and do something, you're going to find out who your true friends are, and you're going to make lifelong bonds like I've made with Reese. Her and I were friends before this, but now we have this lifelong bond because we connected over something. We stood up together and had each other's backs. So just know that you're supported and you're strong and you have people behind you.
And I want to pull up an image I have of you and Reese, because you just very recently, you both were honored in a very special way in New York. And I'll pull it up. I want to pull it up here. There you guys are. So what happened here?
Me and Reese received the Most Valuable Patriot Award at the Fox Nation Patriot Awards. It's actually sitting right back here on my desk.
Oh, wow.
Very,
That's
very
so
proud of
special.
that. That was an amazing opportunity. I mean, 6 months ago when we stepped off the podium, we didn't think anything was really gonna come of it, and here we are in New York receiving a very prestigious award on national television. It was so amazing. I was so happy to be standing there next to Reese. She is such a beautiful human inside and out, and I'm so proud to have been going through all of this by her side.
Yes, I have to talk to her at some point, but she said something really profound in her speech. What did she say?
Yes. She said that nothing will happen if you do nothing. I think that's a beautiful quote, and that is so incredibly true. We can't complain about things, but not do anything to try to change it. You can't be upset with the lack of protections if you don't stand up and vouch for them. And yeah, that's what she had to
Ima
say, and I totally agree.
Imagine what would happen if just 10% of the girls on a track team said, I'm not gonna compete, or I'm going to step off the podium." Just 10% even, just a small amount, just said, "We're not going to participate in this lie anymore." But it starts with one.
Mhm.
One person stands up, and I was told this early on in my journey of activism, because I wasn't always like this. I was normal. Um, I was just a mom with a Honda minivan driving kids around. I never dreamed I'd be doing something like this. I never in my life dreamed I'd be doing something like this. Um, but it takes one person to stand up, and then that inspires another person, and then another person. And pretty soon, when you have got even in it, in comparison, it's not that many, but you've got this force then. Now it becomes a movement.
Yes.
Now that one act of courage inspires another act of courage. And it's not just with other people. Once you do something courageous and you survive it, you just sort of like you realize, I can do that. Like, I'm going to do it again. And then you do it again and again. And then courage becomes a habit. It becomes a way of life. And that is when you are so free that you are all the invisible chains of caring about what people think about you, they just go away. And now you should care what people, you should care what certain people think about you.
Yes.
Your parents that love you, your grandparents that love you. There are some opinions that matter, because we all need to be course corrected. We're humans. So we need to have the pastor that we look up to. We need to have the friend that's willing to tell us something that's uncomfortable. But you can't be afraid of what the person who hates you thinks about you, because they hate you. They don't,
Yeah.
and they don't necessarily hate you. I shouldn't say that. They have hate in their heart. It's really not about you, to be honest. And the more you realize that, the more that you can forgive and look at them as humans, because you can understand this isn't about you. This is about them. And that should inspire some pity from you, and it does. Now, that shouldn't stop you from doing the right thing. Your empathy should never be weaponized, but you should have it. You
Yes.
don't, you want to be empathetic, because then you're no better, and you don't want to be like that. The people, the ideology that caused that young man to murder Charlie Kirk is something you never want to have in your heart. You don't want to have a heart like that. And Charlie Kirk would never want that for young people. So you have to make sure, we all have to check ourselves and make sure that we touch grass, hang out with our family over the holidays, and turn off politics, and realize that this is a beautiful and wonderful world that we live in, and most humans are wonderful. They're regular, ordinary people just like us, and maybe and if we talk to them and we have those conversations, I always think that 8 out of 10 people would agree with me if they just sat and had a conversation with me. And they might change my mind too, and I have to be open to that.
Yeah.
Always open.
Being open-minded, being curious to learn new things, and being gracious when you realize that you might be wrong, or gracious when you're sharing your opinions. That is something that's so important in this country, and something that I think we've really lost sight of. We've really jumped into, I don't agree with
Yeah.
you, that means we're enemies, which is so
Yeah.
dangerous to our society, and it's so horrible. It leads to so many unwanted aggression, anger, hatred, all that kind of stuff. When really, if we all just sat down and were able to have a mature, gracious conversation, say, hey, this is what I think. I want to hear what you have to say. We might not come to a mutual understanding, but at least I'll understand why. I
Yeah.
think that would benefit our society so much if we could all just learn to forego the hate and focus on being kind, being respectful, and seeing each other as human beings, not
Yes.
enemies, not competition.
Yes, and it's really sad to see that even in the conservative movement, there's infighting. I don't ever want to hear people say that they're cutting their family out because we don't have similar political beliefs. Like, you should never do that. Never do that. If they want to cut, but don't, like, just, if it gets that heated, just say, hey, we're not going to even, I love you. We're not going to talk about this because we disagree, and that's okay. We
Yeah.
don't need to agree. Like, let's cool down and let's just talk about something else. That's okay. Like, you need to have people in your life that think differently than you, because it helps you to be empathetic. You have to just, it just makes you a better person. And frankly, it helps you with your own arguments, because then you're like, oh, okay, I see. I didn't think about it that way. So let me research that and let me see if I can counter some of your claims. And if you can't, then you have to think, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not right about this. So
Yeah.
that's how we save our country, and that's what the Western creed, the American creed, is all about. But before we go, it's getting late. I did want to talk about your suit with AFPI, and because I had a conversation with Dan beforehand, what happened was after you did your peaceful protest, what happened? They didn't give you your awards. So what happened? What did you do next? And how did AFPI get involved?
Yes, so after we stepped off the podium, we were kind of pushed off to the side by an official saying, if you're not going to participate, you need to get out of the way. And then we did not receive our medals. I had asked about them and was told that they'd be shipped to our school. They were never shipped to our school. I did not receive my medal until the Fox Nation Patriot Awards. So that is when AFPI got involved. They were in contact with Reese before all this had happened. I got involved with them after the meet. They told us, hey, we are filing a Title IX lawsuit as the Title IX laws have been infringed upon. And we're also filing a First Amendment lawsuit because you guys were not allowed to use your freedom of speech and your freedom of protest as stated in the First Amendment. So they really supported us on that. They told us that they had our backs and they were going to help fight to make everything right.
And they did. They just announced on December 10th, I believe, that this First Amendment lawsuit in Oregon, brought on behalf of yourself and Reese Eckhart, had been dismissed by mutual agreement of both parties. And I'm reading directly from their press release. They had filed the lawsuit to protect you girls after the Oregon School Activities Association retaliated against you girls for your silent protest against the lack of fairness in girls' sports. And it brought the attention to this unconstitutional retaliation, resulting in millions of Americans learning your story and rallying behind you. AFPI also highlighted in their complaint the OSAA's past practice of selectively embracing left-leaning protective speech, and allegations that the organization tried to strike from AFPI's lawsuit, but the judge denied this attempt. So after filing the suit, the OSAA unceremoniously mailed the girls your medals to the legal counsel. And on November 6th, live at Fox Nation Patriot Awards ceremony, the girls received this much needed recognition and the medals that you were denied before a national audience. And the director of AFPI, the director of litigation, Andrew Zamiti, said that the resolution of this case doesn't affect the organization's separate and ongoing Title IX lawsuit against OSAA, which challenges the association's policy of allowing biological males to compete in girls' sports. But what this case did do is protect Alexa and Reese's, their free speech, exposed how officials had retaliated against them for expressing truth, elevated their story to a national audience, and resulted in you receiving the awards and medals that you deserved. And now AFPI is going to continue this real fight, restoring Title IX to defend girls' sports across America. And I know Leigh Ann had said that they are going to continue to stand with student athletes in Oregon and all across the country in the advancing of a broader litigation strategy to protect fairness, safety, and opportunity for women and girls. And so I am so grateful to them, as I am to Southeastern Legal Foundation, Alliance Defending Freedom, the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty, and the many other C3 organizations that they're nonprofit. They do not charge their clients. They do this work pro bono, and they do it for the advancement of Western civilization, and in this case, fairness for girls.
Yeah, what AFPI has done for us has been so amazing. This whole entire time, our only goal has been get protections in girls' sports, protect us, keep them fair, keep them safe, keep them equal. And that is what we're doing. They are pursuing that Title IX case. They're going to fight it till the ends of the earth on our behalf. And we know that, and we love that. I'm just so incredibly grateful to them for all they've done, for all the help and support that they've had. They are all just amazing human beings.
Well, what I suggest, because the Supreme Court is going to be hearing oral arguments in two very important cases that will affect this Oregon case, the ongoing litigation, and many other cases that from the aforementioned legal groups that they've brought forward in the Trump administration, the DOJ, the Department of Education guidance, all of that. So there's going to be two oral arguments will be heard in January. These opinions will be released in June, and I think we should all go to DC and be there together. We need to get a group and go attend as they read these decisions, because I have a good feeling about that. This is going to, it's not going to end the debate, but it's going to really, really benefit team sanity, and it's going to be a major setback for those that are just insistent on denying truth in favor of a political ideology and advancing power. They're harming kids to get power, and that's despicable.
Yes. I will be there in DC supporting. I will be there the 12th and 13th. We will be on the steps of the Supreme Court rallying in support. And I hope that anyone who can comes and joins us, and wear your Save Women's Sports shirts from XXXY Athletics. They're an amazing brand that's been supporting this whole movement. So, let's all band together and see if we can get change.
I've booked my flight. I told my husband I'm going to be gone, because sometimes you don't know exactly, they have this week when opinions drop. I'm going to be there the whole week, waiting every day, waiting to hear. I might even, I was nearly able to, for the Mahmoud v. Taylor, I was going to be allowed to go hear the release of the decision, but there were these two adorable college kids right behind me. And so I was like, you guys, you go, it's fine. You go. They're like, so I'm a mom. What am I going to do? So it's the last two tickets, I'm like, let's give them to the kids. We'll listen outside. So, but I did I was there, and it was amazing. It was celebratory. You know, that my movie Taylor was historic, and the decisions coming up are going to be, I think they're going to be historic. And I'm very excited to hear the oral arguments, because they tip their hat a little bit as you listen to the
Yes.
back and forth, and you get a little bit of an idea of where things are going to go. So, well,
Yeah.
Alexa, I'm going to let you go because it's nearly Christmas, and you're doing you're home, so enjoy that good home cooking. I've got to go cook, actually.
Yes.
Or
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate your time, and have a Merry Christmas, you and your entire family. I hope you all have a wonderful holiday.
you too. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. We'll talk again soon. I'm going to have you a regular on because you're so pretty. Everyone just wants to
Thank
watch
you.
look at you. So, and you're smart.
Thank you so
And
much.
everything. Like, listen, I have teenagers around the house all the time. So, like, you know, it's like she's so pretty.
Oh, that's so
And my
sweet.
nephews were like, she's super pretty. I have like college age nephews. Like and they're conservative too. She's like, they're like, there's a pretty conservative girl. They're like, where is she?
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Oh, anyways, sorry guys if you're watching. I didn't know how to do. All right. Well, bye, Alexa. It's been great
Bye.
talking to you. Thank you for all you do. Bye.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas. That was an amazing conversation with my friend Alexa, and I'm totally serious. Let's meet in June. We're going to have a party. I'm going to make this is done. This is done. We're going to get Riley Gaines. We're going to get Paula Scanlon. We're going to get Maddie. We're going to get Sophia. We're going to get Reese. We're going to have a party. Okay, we're going to celebrate the restoration of truth and justice and actual feminism that cares about women and girls. So thanks, guys, for tuning in. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And Team Sanity, we're the place to be, right? Bye. I did it again. Muted my mic. Hi, everyone. Scarlett Johnson here. All natural, because I haven't even had time to put on makeup. I love these interviews, and I know I'm going to, over Christmas break, be talking again to Jennifer Say and to Maddie, and have a whole lineup of cool guests that we are going to have on. And we are going to have a special live airing of a great conversation that was had at the Moms for Liberty Joyful Warriors Summit when we were in Orlando in October. And we had our first ever breakout session with influencers, with the new media, with folks that are part of this whole new effort to provide content and truth to regular people who are just tired of what they're seeing on the news, on the mainstream news. And there's entertainment value to it. There is hard news, personal stories, things that you can't hear anywhere else. Sorry for my voice. I have had this, I don't feel bad, but just trying to get my voice back after this like upper respiratory thing has been fun over Christmas, as you can imagine. So before we do that, I did want to talk about our friends at Patriot Mobile. And so I'm going to pull up image. So Patriot Mobile right now is offering a special promotion. You can see the promo code Holiday25. Holiday25. Use that promo code and you will get 2 free months of service when you switch to America's only this is great. I love this image. Moms for Liberty members who were at AmFest in Arizona spent some time together with Patriot Mobile, and I am looking forward to talking to the Patriot Mobile CEO very soon. So just wanted to share this unique opportunity to get 2 free months of service when you switch over to Patriot Mobile. And everyone that I talked to that has Patriot Mobile loves the service. They said it's high quality. I know that we are looking forward to switching because we are kind of sick of our current carrier. So wanted to mention that. And so next, you are going to see this newly, we have now the footage of our breakout sessions, and I am hosting a session with Garcia Gates, with Jamie Lee Franklin of the Conservator, and Lydia Schaefer. All of them have huge Instagram channels. They are huge on Instagram, TikTok, and they have a presence also on X. But their main bread and butter is on Instagram because they tell stories and they do it in a unique way. So you'll learn more as you watch this breakout session. It was extremely popular. The second half of Beyond the Scroll is led by Rosalind Hanson of Moms for Liberty, and it includes Alex Stein, who is hilarious, and a friend Angela Bellamuco, and I hope I'm saying her last name correctly. And so the whole session was just amazing, and we had so much fun doing it. Also, the extremely popular Caitlin, she was a part of this, and all of these influencers were amazing to work with, so kind, so just wonderful. They were so, and when they weren't on the stage talking, they mingled with everyone. They took pictures. They had several conversations. They were really just wonderful people in real life. And I know that right now there are a lot of influencers that seem to not be in this movement for the right reasons. And these are not among them. These were all like really genuine, kind, caring people that maybe we didn't agree on everything, but they had the joyful warrior mentality. They were just generous and open to talk about any subject. So I really enjoyed getting to know all of them, and I've had them on Unleashed. We've had them on Moms for Liberty events. They have now, some of them have interviewed the Moms for Liberty CEO, Tina Deskovich. They've had her on their show now. So it's great relationship, and we look forward to continuing these great relationships that we are building through truth, because we stand for truth, and anyone else who stands for truth, we honor them and we love to work with them. So without further ado, let's go right into this breakout session, which is, and I have to give a shout out to Jamie Hinkle, who was just helped to organize all of this. She did all of the behind the scenes work. She's an amazing friend. And to Rosalind Hanson, who helped arrange all of this. And then also she moderated the second half of this session. And so this is great. And shout out to Tina for letting us do this, even though she was just like, I don't know what's going to happen, but it all turned out wonderful. So thank you to everyone. So let's go ahead. Let's do this. Get this going. Yeah, it's here. So here we are behind. Here's you'll see in the black dress, that's Jamie Lynn Franklin. She is a young mom, super sweet, She has now her own podcast. She is CEO of the Conservator, and she's on Fox News all the time. She is a regular guest on numerous different Fox shows. And then we have Lydia Schaefer, who has a huge Instagram account, and she is known as the I want to make sure I get this right before works with Turning Point. And because I want to get everyone's handle right, I'll make sure that she's known as Conservative Barbie 2.0. And then Gates Garcia, huge following. He is a writer also for the Daily Wire and other publications. Dad, really fun to work with. So here we go. We're gonna get the sound going on this.
Hello. It's on. It's loud. Now I have the mic. We'll start in just about 5 minutes.
Come on in, Moms for Liberty. Come on, don't be shy. We got some dads in here. I just want to say thank you guys for being here. This is going to be the most exciting panel. The Pimp on a Blimp is here, so you know things are going to get wild. But, you know, our panel, we have a few people that are, you know, we're on every side of the political spectrum. But, like, for me, Caitlin's going to be on the panel. Her and I disagree on a lot of stuff. And no offense, Caitlin. Like, she doesn't really like trans people. I love them. But I mean, selfishly, I love them. Like, I'm really mad that Donald Trump is trying to outlaw transgenders in women's sports. Like, I disagree with that because we can gamble on the transgenders and win money. I mean, I won so much money on Leah Thomas's propeller, I almost turned draft kings into draft queens. No, I mean, and like, you know, Donald Trump, you see he outlawed transgenders in the military? Why? Transgenders would make the best soldiers. First reason, they're mean as hell. Second reason, they love to do mass shootings. And the third reason, trans people, sadly, have a very high rate of suicide. So maybe we could steal a page from Al-Qaeda's book and we put bombs on them and they become suicide bombers. And they can die as heroes. How does that sound? Good? I love that. Thank you. I love that. And you know, a little bit about myself, you guys. I was actually a school teacher before I became the Pimp on a Blimp, and I got fired for teaching critical race theory. That's true. That's true. I'd made two big mistakes. The first mistake is I took the kids on a field trip without getting parental signatures. And the second mistake is the field trip was to a plantation. I was going to have the white kids pick cotton and let the African American ones design a t-shirt with it and, you know, teach them that racism is bad. But I got fired for that, so it radicalized me. And that's why I'm here today, all right? Because I'm done with this. And I'm Tucker Carlson's biological stepson, if you didn't know. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. My dad appreciates that. You know, times were tough when we got fired from Fox, but now we work for Qatar, so things are good. Things are really good, actually. They pay a lot more than Fox, so thank God. Okay, how many more minutes do I have? One more? Okay, one more thing. We got about 5 more minutes? Okay, that's fine. Good. No rush. I really appreciate that. No pressure. Look at this. I'm trying to make one of these hand signals. I don't know. One thing I also do want to say about these events, these conferences, sometimes they can get kind of long and, you know, they can be, you know, hard. But when you get to meet a handsome fellow like me, I know it makes it worth it, right? You know, so please don't be afraid to come up to me. And we have a lot of beautiful ladies on this panel. And why is that? Like, why are conservative-leaning women beautiful and leftists look like transgender weirdos? Why is that? No, and actually, I love trans people. I mean, I'm transgender myself. I do it so I can go in the women's restroom, hang out with you guys. I love it. But yeah, I guess I won't say anything more controversial because I don't want to misrepresent the Moms for Liberty because I have a bunch of stuff about Israel-Palestine. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. Okay, yeah, no. Trying to think of anything uncontroversial I can say. Babe, what should I say that's uncontroversial? Anything? I know. Oh, I'll tell you this. I'll tell you guys, I'll leave you this one thing. So one of the reasons, if you don't know who I am, like I said, I'm Alex Stein. I'm Tucker Carlson's biological stepson. But the reason I'm so screwed up is when my parents got divorced. This is a true story. I'm not kidding. My parents got divorced. They actually fought for custody of our family dog more than they fought for custody of me. It's true. And the judge decreed that the dog would go to whatever house I went to, because my parents had split custody. So I was basically raised by a dog. You know what I mean? That's why I like cats more, because I'm a self-hating dog. Should I say the rest of the joke, babe? Okay, all right. Well, this joke actually got us canceled from, I opened up for Tucker in Fort Worth, and this joke, the Fort Worth Star-Telegram wrote this scathing review of this joke, so I might as well give you guys some ammunition to write about me. So since I was raised by this animal, I learned a lot about animals. Like, did you guys know that animals have races? No, you didn't know this? Like, Chihuahuas are obviously Mexican. Yo quiero Taco Bell. Shiba Inu's obviously Asian, nice, sweet. Golden Retrievers, white, best behaved. And guess what color pit bulls are? Pit bulls are African American because they represent 13% of the dog population, but they commit 50% of the dog assaults. That's a joke, guys, come on. No, I love all colors, all races, and creeds. And I just want to say thank you guys for being here. I'm Alex Stein, and I'm going to be on this panel, so things are going to get wild. This is adults only, right? Are there any children in the room? Because I'm about to cuss like a sailor. No, I'm kidding. No, we're going to have a great time. Thank you guys for being here, and I'm going to give the microphone to Scarlett. I'm Alex Stein. Thank you guys again.
Well, that's a tough act to follow. So welcome. I'm so glad that y'all could be here today, and we're going to talk about a topic that is near and dear to my heart: social media, influencing, and new media. Our panel is Beyond the Scroll, Finding Your Voice and Growing Your Social Media Platform. And we're thrilled to have 6 panelists join us today, followed by a Q&A once both panels are complete. And as each have their own voice that we value, we want to acknowledge that their individual views are not necessarily those of Moms for Liberty. I've legal disclaimer. With that said, let's just dive right in. Social media is the town square, as Elon Musk has said. It's a gateway for millions to get informed, inspired, and involved. When we share truth and bring light into dark places, we create accountability, and sunlight is the best disinfectant. And for parents, and I'm one of them, if you're in a blue state or you have a governor that's not going to follow executive orders, suddenly the same people that were just rushing to follow the executive orders before now suddenly don't think that they're constitutional. Then sometimes what we do is the only accountability that's available in our areas, and it's the only way that we're going to bring about change. We've got to expose what's happening, and we generate. That's how you get people to the school board meetings, and that's how you get the calls to our legislators and all of that. So truth online can lead to courage in real life. These folks are the digital storytellers that turn conviction into content and content into change. And I'm going to introduce all three of them. We have Gates Garcia, entrepreneur and creator. We have Lydia Schaefer at Conservative Barbie 2.0. We have Jamie Franklin, who is a co-founder of The Conservator and just launched Sincerely American, a Gen Z podcast that is really cool. So I'm going to ask a few general questions and let you guys just talk and inspire. I've been listening to a lot of your questions throughout years since I've been doing this, and I think that we're going to get a lot of good answers. So Gates, what started you? What motivated you to start doing what you're doing? Because you had another job before this, and you gave it all up, and you're pursuing this with a lot of passion.
Yeah, I would say it happened very slowly overnight. I consumed a lot of news as a typical American consumer while having 3 kids. I have a 4th on the way. And as my kids got older and I continued to consume news, mostly conservative, but on both sides of the aisle, I realized that I didn't see myself reflected in the news. Everything I would turn on, even if it was informative, it felt like it was talking to me and not with me. I couldn't really relate to the sort of language and conversations that were taking place. So the other thing that happened was I realized that the voices that were elevated in the media weren't the ones that I wanted to hear from. I wanted to talk to and hear from real people doing real things in the arena of life with big platforms that have the courage to be unafraid to be canceled, to represent the values that this group represents. So I started my show. I said, I'm tired of the front page. I want back porch conversations. I want to have conversations with people in the media like I do, smoking a cigar, drinking a glass of bourbon, because that's the most relatable way we're gonna connect with an audience. So I started a show called We the People with Gates Garcia, and we bring on very large platformed conservatives, Hall of Fame athletes, NBA All-Stars, Hollywood actors, rock stars, people that you wouldn't necessarily know are conservative until they come on my show and say, I'm willing to risk a sponsorship in the NFL to be proud to love my country, to be proud to love God, and to be proud to be a dad. So now when I watch my content, and the most feedback that I get is, thank you, this is exactly how I sound when I talk to my friends. And while you are talking about the same issues in the media that everyone else is, you're finally talking about it like I am. So that's sort of, I didn't see what I'm doing in the media, so I went out and tried to create it.
And you're primarily on Instagram, and you've grown in 6 months from 0 to almost 70,000 followers. So that's a big deal. And Instagram is primarily a female space, so you're doing something very different with the more masculine but pro-family view. All right. So Lydia, same question.
Okay, so basically I was a hair salon owner, and during COVID, we were not allowed to work. And so that's really all it took for me was that, not being allowed to work, not being allowed to feed my family. I got angry. And then shortly after that, we had all of the stuff with the election being stolen. And I just got so angry. I didn't know any other way to make a difference other than doing what felt natural. And that was pulling out my phone and recording a video. And I did. And I posted it to TikTok. And I want to say my first video I ever made got like 100,000 views. So I just kept making videos. I didn't have a ring light. I would be sitting in my car. And I would just go up there and start ranting, and people kept watching. So here I am now.
And you're a spokesperson for?
So I worked with Turning Point as an ambassador for a couple years, and yeah.
And looking at your, like, she just would take out her phone and record herself in the car. Like, sometimes we
Ranting.
think everything has to be perfect.
Yeah.
But sometimes doing something in the moment is authentic, and it will just spread like fire. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can't keep waiting. One day I'll do this, one day. Like, you got to do it now.
Yeah, I do it before I go into the salon every morning. I have like 15 minutes to pump a video out. So that's what I do.
All right, Jamie.
Hi everyone, my name is Jamie. So like a lot of girls my age, we grew up watching like Devil Wears Prada and all those rom-coms in the 2000s, and I wanted to be a fashion journalist. I moved to New York City and write for Vogue magazine. And I would say it kind of started happening around like 2015. These magazines just went so far left. And I feel like a lot of women in the room can appreciate how crazy women's culture is. A lot of men who are not reading Cosmopolitan, Vogue, or Elle magazine would have no idea, but they're peddling out for women to not have children anymore. They're peddling out that we hate this country. They're peddling out that abortion is the best thing that's ever happened to women, that white people are terrible, you know, all of these leftist talking points that everyone's racist. And so I just was like, I could never do this career anymore. I grew up Catholic, I grew up traditionally conservative, and I loved fashion, and I loved everything to do with women's culture and writing. And so I decided when I was in college, I went to UC Berkeley, which was another.
She grew up in California, folks.
Yeah, so I was at Berkeley from 2016 to 2020, which was insane, that time period. And, you know, I was really inspired by the dating culture in a bad way. I was inspired by the dating culture that I saw on a lot of our college campuses, where I just didn't feel like this was empowerment for women. And so I founded my online publication. It's called The Conservateur, and we cover fashion, beauty, lifestyle, politics, culture, and we're trying to, you know, one, represent conservative women who feel just so alienated by what they see in our media, but also bring over a lot of women who might not be MAGA voters or hardcore conservatives and bring them over to our side, because I think we're explaining how to live a better life that's God-given, embracing your beauty, embracing your femininity, embracing faith, church, family, and love of country, which I believe are just so empowering for young women. And fast forward today, 2 weeks ago, I launched my podcast with my best friend, Cameron. We worked in the first Trump White House together, and it's called Sincerely American, and I think this is just the best format to bring over more and more women. You know, Call Her Daddy is the #1 podcast for women in America right now, and so we're covering very similar topics, but through a conservative lens, and I'm just really excited for this journey, and I think Gen Z is going more and more conservative, especially for men, but we need a lot of work for women right now, and that's really my goal.
We need to provide an alternative culture for young people. We just have to. We can't just say, don't watch this, don't look at that. You have to give an alternative, something that's cool. And Jamie, you mentioned a lot of things that's wrong with those magazines, but you neglected to say that the women are ugly and the clothes are nasty and I would never wear them. Yeah. You couldn't possibly wear them. You watch Paris Fashion Week, it's like, ugh, like, who would wear that? And it costs a fortune. I want to look at clothes that I could actually wear, that are pretty. You know, I'm old enough to remember when supermodels were actually like hot and good looking. Now they look like men.
I remember when the Victoria's Secret fashion show was canceled. I think it was in 2016, and that was a defining moment for a lot of girls my age. We're like, what? You can't have hot models who are skinny? It literally got canceled because they weren't putting up obese people and trans people. And it's like, no, we want beautiful women. And so I remember that was a big moment for me as well.
And Gates, the men are skinny and scrawny and they're feminine. It's like, ew, like where's the Mark Wahlbergs, man? Like.
Was there a question there? I'm thick and bald, so I don't know.
There's male role models for young men. Where are they?
So what I've been really surprised with my show is that it's really connected with a younger audience. I'm 40, and I built it for people sort of entering in and exiting the prime age of their parenting careers. Because, like I said, I didn't see myself represented in the media. I can watch the nightly news, but the nightly news isn't going to break it down and talk about how culture starts at the kitchen table. How do you absorb what you see on Fox News, but then take it into your home and translate that to your kids, get them to church, do all those things that requires. And so I was really speaking to sort of like 30 to 60-year-olds when I set out to do this, but the college audience has been overwhelming that's come to my show. And I've realized that the two biggest things that's brought them there is the talks about faith. Every show that I do, faith, family, and freedom. No matter who I'm talking to, they're going to get at least one question on one of those things. Sometimes one of those goes into a much longer conversation. But we've talked a lot about masculinity because the masculinity movement in this country has really, really, really pissed me off. We have very poor example. We sort of went through two iterations. The left stripped culture of masculinity. They took it away. And that's bad. But then you had these fringe kind of, Ben Shapiro would call it the horseshoe right men that have tried to bring it back, the Andrew Tates of the world, if you're familiar with who these men are. That is toxic masculinity. And I hate the term toxic masculinity, but their toxic masculinity does exist. What we're trying to promote on our show is virtuous masculinity. Toxic, the adverb of the word can never be the antithesis of the word. And the words toxic and the words masculinity are the antithesis of each other. Masculinity is virtuous, but what gets so stripped away in the talks about masculinity, I think the most masculine thing a man can do is treat a woman right. And you never hear about women. Every time these men want to represent what true masculinity is, and I'm talking about the ones on the right too, you never hear the word woman. It's all about the man. And the most appropriate thing, like I have an 11-year-old daughter, and the best advice I ever got when she was born was expect her first boyfriend that comes home to be a lot like you. If you're a jerk to your wife, if you're mean to your daughter, don't be angry when her boyfriend is a jerk and mean, because she is learning what a man is supposed to be and how a man is supposed to be modeled in society by her dad. I have a responsibility to represent that to her. And that's through how I treat her mother and treat her. And I just really wish that we had more conversations like that in the masculinity movement. And that conversation has drawn so many people to my platform.
Well, Lydia, Charlie Kirk was an example of masculinity that you would want to see. I have a son. That's the kind of masculinity that I want to see emulated in him. And, unfortunately, he's taken from us too soon. But you worked for Turning Point, and Turning Point, very much like Moms for Liberty, we know we have to be involved in this culture. We are deep into the culture wars, and as much as folks want to deny it, we have to fight these battles. What do you have to say to that?
Well, I completely agree with you. We have to fight these battles. And I know that's why locally where I live, I used social media. Charlie has inspired me in so many ways, but I used social media to rally my community to come together and go to a school board meeting. And I spoke at this school board meeting a few weeks ago, and I think that our kids need to be more protected. I think that school shootings are really on the rise, and they don't seem to be going anywhere. So I spoke at my school board meeting about getting metal detectors in every school, including elementary schools. Fewer than 2% of elementary schools nationwide have metal detectors, and Charlie Kirk was shot on a school campus, and so I rallied my community together. We went to the school board meeting, we spoke, and we did it. We've got metal detectors coming to every school in our county. So Charlie's just inspired me. I've gotten with a state senator in Virginia, and she's currently writing a bill to require metal detectors in every school in Virginia, and we will hopefully get that in place along with SROs. So Charlie Kirk has inspired that whole thing for me.
Well, that's how you used your platform and your voice to make real change, and that's what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
Now, Jamie, the baby, 27 years old, she's a mom. She has a 2-year-old little girl. She also worked, she mentioned, for the Trump administration. So what's your message to Gen Z, and especially as you're a young mom, and what are you telling young women that the message that is being sent to them is wait to have babies till you're like 40.
Or don't have kids at all.
Don't have kids at all. They're a burden. Don't have, maybe, we have a surrogate like Kardashian or something. I don't know, but that doesn't work out. But what is your message?
Yes, so, I always make this joke. I had Vivian, my husband and I are the same age, and we had her at 24. We got married at 23, and I always joke I'm a teen mom in DC because I go to class, and I think the average age for having children now is 33 years old. And I never want to ever say, when you have kids for the right time, you have it for the right time. Not everybody's able to have kids in their early 20s, but there are a lot of people, like you're saying, it's a very encouraged culture now to either not have kids or to wait to have kids later in life. And I say this to all young women who, are deciding about how they want to balance their career, how they want to balance family. I have loved the things that I've done with my career so much. I'm very proud of them, and I'm very lucky for the opportunities I've had, but nothing has come even close to the happiness and fulfillment that I've gotten out of being a mom. And I truly can cry because it's just really impacted my way in such a beautiful way. And, you know, we talk a lot about like the digital age nowadays, and there's a lot of negatives that come with it with social media, and I think it's causing a lot of mental health crises in this country, a lot of isolation. People are losing community out of it. But a really positive thing out of it is I can be a stay-at-home mom. I don't put my daughter in daycare. I'm with her every day. Scarlett knows. We did her podcast, and I was like, okay, I only have 45 minutes until the nap is over. So you can have a career at home now and be able to do amazing things and, you know, work in the hours of being a mom as well. And I love what you said about the masculinity thing, because I think that needs to be a leading force in the conservative movement. We need to go back to biblical values of what it means to be a real man and what it means to be a real woman. And the left has done this on purpose. They've caused so much chaos and confusion with this feminist movement, with the trans movement. They're all intertwined on what it means to be a woman in this day and age and what it means to be a man. And so I love that what you're doing for men, because that's so important. And we're trying to do the same thing for women. We're trying to give them guidance on how to be the best version of yourself, how to work your hardest and pursue your career, how to be the best wife, how to be the best mother. And I just think for my generation, Gen Z, politics and culture are so intertwined, and people want that guidance. And that needs to begin at the church, that we need to push people back into the pews. I'm so proud of the religious revival that's occurring in this country for my generation right now. And that needs to filter down into our politics, and it needs to filter into the culture. So that's my main message that I'm trying to push for young women.
So how many in here have teenagers or college-age kids? They aren't watching television, are they? Right? All they do, they watch podcasts. They watch the videos. They're on Instagram. They have a digital life. So if we don't provide content for them, someone else is. So we may think, oh, this is not me. I don't want to have an Instagram account. I don't want to. But it's important, because this is what your kids are watching. This is the youth. This is how they're getting their information. So what do you have to say to those that think, oh, I can't do it, it's too hard, I wouldn't be able to grow my audience and have my voice heard in my community?
Well, a couple of things on that. First of all, social media is the largest media audience in the world, and at the same time, it has the lowest barriers to entry. Okay, anyone can get on social media and have a platform. And we all think about, okay, well, I want to get on there and I want to have the biggest account and, you know, all these things, or I can't compete with the biggest accounts. You may have 500,000 followers, okay? But what if you had 100 followers and all 100 of those people were the most important 100 people that you need to connect with on the topic that you're communicating? Don't worry about audience size, worry about audience quality and the connection you have with that audience. I mean, what if the 100 people that followed you were the most important policymakers in the country? Well, then who cares if you have 1 million followers? So I would say get on there, start building a brand, and we can talk a lot about how to build a brand and what your brand should be and all that. But everyone needs to get on there, because we have so many kids on social media being fed so much junk. We have a responsibility to overwhelm the algorithm. And the more of us that get on there, the more overwhelming of that algorithm we can be. We know we were the silent majority in this country for a long time. We're now a louder majority, but we've got to be loud in all the right places. And one of the most important places is where our kids are. And even if you think you're banning your kids from phones, their friends have phones, YouTube's everywhere, they have tablets in the classrooms, they can find this stuff. So it's our responsibility to get in there and work harder than the opposition to overwhelm the algorithm with the true, the good, and the beautiful. I look at my Instagram as, you know, when you use like a $100 bill or a $50 bill and they hold it up to the light to see if it's authentic. I want to be what is held up to the light to see if it's authentic. And I think we all have that responsibility to do that for our kids.
Great. And Lydia, as we're closing, what is your advice that you give to those that are attending today about social media?
Well, I would encourage you all to just get loud, get angry. There's a lot to be angry about, and your voice does matter. We don't need more influencers necessarily. We need more truth tellers. And like I said earlier, you don't need anything fancy. If you have a smartphone and a little bit of courage, that can go a long way.
Same. Jamie, what is your advice?
I would say be bold and courageous. So when I launched the Conservatoire, I had nothing besides hate. Like, I mean that. I was getting, like, people were calling me and like, Jamie, I can't be friends with you anymore because everyone hates the Conservatoire and hates everything that you're talking about. And I launched the Conservatoire 2 days before the whole George Floyd thing happened. So as you can imagine, it was a very volatile time to get out there. But then over the last a year, like, I just kept trekking. I kept standing up even though no one was supporting me at the time. Besides my family and very few amount of friends. And I just started collecting these women from across the country that just loved what I stood for. And, you know, now today, I think combined, we have like 500,000 followers of just women across the country that just absolutely love, you know, what we're standing for, our mission, and the culture and the values that we're putting out. And so I just never let anyone tell you, you know, that you're not allowed to say this or censor you on that. We have the First Amendment in this country, and you have every right to stand up for what you believe in, and you will find people out there who support you, and never let these people cancel you or dictate your life in any way. And we're winning because of brave people that come into this room who are standing up for what they believe in, and we're no longer letting the left dictate the terms in this country any longer.
Jamie, I loved your cover article for last month. It was a picture of Riley Gaines, pregnant, laying in a field with her husband. It was beautiful. It just, you know, and that's the imagery, that's the message that we're trying to send, that it's okay to be pretty and care about, you know, your femininity and how you dress as a woman. And having children is awesome. It's the best thing that you'll ever do. And so I really appreciate that you put that message, and I appreciate that all of you are out here. And I hope that you all are inspired to follow all of us, and we'll give you some more information. There'll be QR codes, and to find your own voice and find a way that you can be in the town hall, in the public square, and in your community, be the truth tellers that you need to be to bring change. And now I'm going to introduce my friend Rosalind Hanson.
Is this on? Oh, perfect. Thank you to our first panel. And now we'll welcome our second panel, focusing on how to use your voice through humor and provocation. So please help me welcome Angela Belcamino, the bold lib. Did I stutter a little? Belcamino, sorry. Caitlin Bennett from the Liberty Hangout, and the man who needs no introduction because he commandeered the microphone, Mr. Alex Stein. My dress got stuck. Thank you. Use humor, right? Always. Own it. Make sure our mics are good.
Good? Are we good? All right.
Awesome. Okay, so another disclaimer. Everyone has a voice. Everyone has a view. That does not mean that they represent those of Moms for Liberty.
Why did you look at me when you said that?
So in this second panel, we're hoping to take what the first panel talked about, how to find your voice, how to build your audience, but then really to take it to the next level potentially and niche it, right? Through humor or provocation, which who here has ever been to a school board or been, you know, called a horrible thing by somebody in your community or had to face really hard times? Yeah, not Caitlin. And so hopefully they can give you some real world advice from their very own experiences so that you can go and do what you need to do to advance freedom in America. So I guess the first question I have for the three of you, and we'll start with you, Caitlin, is do you use humor or provocation more, do you think, in your craft, and why?
Yeah, so I'm Angela. I'm known as the bold lib. I would say for me, it's more humor. I do think that you know, laughter is therapeutic, and I feel like, you know, obviously there's so much going out there that we're heated and passionate about, that's important to talk about, but by using humor, it sort of disarms people a little bit more. It kind of makes it, you know, these serious, tough topics more approachable and relatable. And sometimes also we just need to laugh a little bit. And for me, you know, self-deprecation is also important. I think it can be, there's always, when you put yourself out there online, as many have mentioned, there's gonna be a lot of hate, there's gonna be a lot of backlash, criticism, so you do have to have a thick skin. But being able to sort of own that and make fun of yourself sometimes is really good too. So that's something that has been important for me, is to be able to make fun of my own perceived flaws or mistakes or awkward moments.
And what about you, Caitlin?
So I like to use humor, but I like to say that the people that I interact with, and if you guys know anything about what I do, I like to go to protest and interview liberals and just, yes, I really like to let them shine. It's not really me being funny. I let them take the floor, and they're the humor in my videos. And yes, we'll have a little witty comeback, Alex Stein style sometimes. But, you know, I don't like to say that I provoke. I think that they get provoked by my existence. And so me breathing and existing in their space provokes them, and then we laugh. And I think I don't need to be someone in front of a camera that tells you all the nitty-gritty details about this story or whatever. We want to laugh at people who think really ridiculous things and look really ridiculous, and so I like to bring that to you guys.
Well, for me, you know, I do use a lot of humor. I remember during the pandemic, that's kind of when I started to really get a following. And, you know, I really didn't like wearing a mask. You know what I mean? Like, if a pair of Levi's can't stop a fart, then a mask can't stop a deadly virus. So, like, I was really anti-mask. And so what I did was I would wear, like, 10 masks on the plane. I would have, like, 50 masks, literally, like, 40 masks on my face, and that would go viral. So that was kind of like me being sarcastic, kind of what Angela does. And then, you know, Caitlin's obviously great at going to these protests, and she's fearless. I actually try to emulate Caitlin. She's really good at that. But also, I do have to use a little, you know, provocation. I have to provoke people, because now we're competing with AI, and luckily AI cannot call AOC a big booty Latina. So I still have to go and call out politicians. And I'll be honest, you know, my content can be polarizing. You know, some people like me, some people don't, and that's fine. But whenever I confront a politician, doesn't matter if they're conservative or liberal, people love that. So in a way, going to school board meetings, going to city council meetings, and calling out politicians, people love that. And I consider that, you know, provoking them a little bit, because that's one thing. These people that get elected into these public offices, they're no different than us. Like, their feelings get hurt too, just like our feelings get hurt. And so when you go voice your concerns, I'm just saying it does have an effect. So I really encourage people to do that. And I really appreciate the people that follow me and support me. But what I appreciate the most is I love when somebody comes up to me and says, Alex, because you wore a tuck-friendly bathing suit to a school board meeting, I went and I spoke at my school board meeting. And I love that. So I encourage everybody, please go out there and be more vocal.
So, Alex, you hit upon something just then, that everybody gets their feelings hurt. And so everyone in this room, I imagine, I can only speak for myself, but you've probably had a moment where you realized you crossed the line or you went too far, and maybe in a public forum. So to each of you, and then thinking how we can advise our audience, have you ever crossed the line, in your opinion, in the world of your social media influence? And then how did you respond accordingly to, like, course correct or learn from that? Somebody besides you.
Okay.
Is that okay with you? Yeah, of course. I've been doing this for 7 years. Of course, I've made mistakes, especially when I used to be an atheist. Of course, I've made a lot of mistakes in how I treated people. But since becoming a Christian and a mother, I've turned course in how thank you. And one thing I always used to say pre-conversion to, I'm a Catholic now, is I would never apologize for anything. I would never say sorry. And now I'm learning there's some things I should say sorry for. And so I guess if you guys realize there's something that you have done in the past and you were so prideful that you couldn't just say sorry for it and own up to your mistakes, then it's okay to do that. It's okay to be sorry, and it's okay to forgive other people too, because other people make mistakes along the way.
Alex touched on accountability. I think that's super important in terms of holding leaders accountable and ourselves accountable and being able to own up to when we make mistakes or how to slip up. I can't think of anything specifically that on social media where I felt like I crossed a line, but I would see it more as a political and personal evolution for myself. I think a lot of times right now, people are trying to figure out what's going on with me because I've been the bold lib, and what I'm seeing bold about that right now is being able to call out things on both sides, including the left, and the radical extreme things going on. And it's been really disappointing for me with the Democratic Party that a lot of people are canceling and unfollowing me simply for speaking up and asking questions and disagreeing about some things. And that's very concerning to me. And I'm really excited to be invited here. At first I was like, was this a mistake? Do they know who I am? But I've learned that because it's been such a welcoming environment and everybody's been so wonderful. And unfortunately, I can't say that so much about the left right now. And that really says a lot. So I think, thank you. So I think that a big thing is like learning from, I mean, we should all be learning and evolving and growing. And so many people I talk to, that is their journey, their political journey, their personal journey. And I think that's where I find myself right now, and just being happy to have conversations and be like, this is where I was and this is where I am now, and kind of seeing it as a, you know, an evolution instead of that it was a mistake per se. It's just that's where I was then and this is where I am now, and being able to embrace that process.
Thank you. So in preparation for this panel, one of the observations I had is that you each have a varying degree of commitment to your craft. And I think that that's important for the audience because we have many full-time parents in the audience. This is a volunteer job. So can you kind of briefly share, and we'll start with Caitlin, about how much time you commit to your craft, how you got there, and why and where you find that balance?
So because I put so much time before I had kids into what we did, and I had my husband's right there, I took over Liberty Hangout actually. He started it in college, and then we met when I got involved with Turning Point, and we kind of just took over the world with it a little bit. But we spent so much time in our work before we had kids that because of people here in the audience watching what I do and subscribing and supporting me that way, I actually got to take a break from what I do for 3 years to focus on only being a mom. So I took a 3-year break from this. So if you really put in a lot of time in the beginning, you can then use the gifts that social media and the income you get from that, the influence you get from that, to be a mom, which is the most important thing to do. And so honestly, I do what I do on the weekends. And then once I step back in from filming on a Saturday, I'm mom. I'm in mom mode. And one of the most helpful things I would say to you guys is don't do too much because you will get burnt out. You need to have someone to help you. So I have a built-in helper, which is my husband. He edits all my videos. He films everything. He posts on Twitter for me, and so, or X, sorry. So get yourself a helper. You don't want to get burnt out in this industry.
Yeah, I am a little burnt out because I grind. I'm a primetime 99. I'm coast to coast. I burn the candle on both ends. I don't sleep well at night. I have heart palpitations. I have anxiety and stress.
He's selling the
and
lifestyle, ladies
depression.
and gentlemen.
So yeah, I don't encourage you having to put on tuck-friendly bathing suits and taping it up. Do not be like me. I'm not a role model. No, but I do spend a lot of time making content, but I love doing it. And just a real quick story. So you guys might not know this, and I don't want to hog all the time, but I used to work for this TV show, this reality TV show, kind of trashy. It's called Cheaters. Have you ever been on that show? You guys seen that? We catch people cheating on their husbands and wives, and I worked on that show for 8 years as a producer. The host was a guy by the name of Clark Gable. He was Clark Gable from Gone with the Wind. His grandfather was that Clark Gable, and this is his grandson. And he was a host of the show, my very good friend. Had a car accident, was prescribed pain pills in California, was out in Dallas doing the show, ran out of those pain pills, called a dealer, took the pills that were, fake pills and had fentanyl in it, and he died. And then fast forward the story is incredibly sad. He's my good friend. I'm producing the show. And they said, Alex, you're going to be the next host of the show. And I was so excited. I was like, this is it. Like, this is my big break. And then right when we were about to start filming, they brought me in, and the show's distributed by Viacom, which owns MTV, CMT, and VH1. And they said, Alex, we still want to keep you on as a producer, but we're going to pick this guy by the name of Peter Guns. He's an African-American. We have an African-American audience. We've never had a black host. We want to try it. So I was like, my heart was broken, but I still had a job there. So the first week, the guy's name is Peter Guns. This is the rapper's name. He's like a kind of well-known rapper, had a song, that was popular like in the early 2000s. And we had our first conference call with Viacom, and they said, we got to change his name to Peter Panky. And I was like, why? They said, well, we don't want to glamorize gun violence on the show. And that's when I quit, and I literally started my podcast, and then within a year, I started going to city council meetings, and now I do this full time. So a door that closed ended up being a really good opportunity, and it changed my life. So you never know. You guys, that can happen to you too. So when something bad happens, it might actually be a really good thing in disguise.
Thank you. And Angela, what about you? Can you talk about how much time you dedicate to your craft?
Yeah, so I totally on brand with what Alex is saying. You just never know what's going to happen. So for me, social media and content creation for years and years has been a side hustle. So I've always had a full-time job and it is social media, as many of you who are doing it know, it can be a 24/7. It's very time consuming. So also to Caitlin's point, having someone to help you, whether that's a partner having some sort of team, if they can help with that, is great. Also, I think, the more passionate you are about something, the less it feels like work, right? So the most that we, can do what we love doing, it feels less like work. But you just never know when it's like building and building and building, and you don't know if it's ever gonna happen, and then one day it does. So I just recently left my full-time job, left New York, moved here to Florida, and I'm actually I had this opportunity to start a podcast with a new media group who found me based on social media and what I was doing. And now this is the first time in my life that I'm able to actually support myself and just focus on starting a podcast, which has been a dream forever, and content creation full-time. So it's new for me.
My girlfriend's going to kill me. I couldn't do any of this without you. You do help me. No, because you guys are so nice. And I'm so lucky I get to work for Turning Point, and I have about 12 more colleges I got to go to this semester, and my girlfriend organizes all of that for me. So I love you. Thank you, babe.
So another question that I think our audience might find value in is the brevity of the art, right? Like, we live in a very quick scroll, or it's only a 2 or 3 minute testimony that you can give at school board or that you can give at county council. So what advice or what have you found to be successful in getting your humor out quickly, getting your message out effectively, getting them to respond quickly, that maybe you could give the audience when you're thinking about how to increase your engagement? And I'll start with Caitlin.
Okay. Know your stuff. Know what you're talking about. Before I go out and I engage with protesters, be nice and call them protesters, I study the night before. I look at what they are consuming in the news. I listen to Michael Knowles and Matt Walsh. They're my go-to people to listen to, actually. And I try to figure out what is going on and what they're believing in. I'm also undercover in some of their groups. I guess I shouldn't say that. But I know what they're saying because I'm infiltrated inside of their groups. You got to know what you're talking about. You got to know what they believe in. So not only consume yourself with what people who think like you are saying, and you know all the arguments, you got to know how they think and what they feel, because they think with their feelings. And it's nice to come back and just know your stuff. That's really it. And I mean, you know your stuff, and then if you're naturally funny, then it all kind of combines together, like this guy over here.
Well, I'm a little different than Caitlin. I don't study. I have ADHD. But Caitlin's really smart. You guys hear her debates with people, like she crushes them. I have a totally different tactic that started to work for me, and I know Charlie Kirk helped Caitlin a lot, and Charlie Kirk helped me a lot. So just a quick story. had a podcast, you know, had some followers. I had this video my first video that went viral, I wore a Zorro mask instead of a regular mask to Target, and I bought a trash can, like, at the height of the pandemic, and it blew up. Mark Dice shared it, like, it was
Heightened security here is actually because Alex is
yeah,
here.
that is part of the reason. But I'll just tell the story real quick. So this is what changed my life, though, and this is what I kind of encourage you guys if you're like, hey, what do I want to do? How do I want to talk about stuff? So I was talking very serious, and I went to city council meetings when they shut down the government. I was like, you know, this is ridiculous. You know, why can't we use the public parks? Why is everything shut down? They didn't pay attention. They were like, what? You know, they're looking at their phone. Then I went up there and I said, the first video, before I went up there and did Dr. Fauci give me that ouchie, that was like my first really mega viral video. But my first real success that like made the light bulb go off, it was right after they passed a heartbeat bill in Texas where they outlawed abortion after 8 weeks. And I went to a city council meeting and I was kind of like, didn't have ideas. I was like, I'm going to go up there and I'm going to say how much I love abortion and how mad I am that I can't get an abortion. And I was going to be so gross. I was like, it's the only contraception that works 100% of the time. Like, I don't want all these baby mamas. I was totally disrespectful, but I sounded exactly like the left. I said clump of cells. I said all of the hot button, you know, words that gets people triggered. And Charlie Kirk shared it. And I noticed it because I seemed like what I was doing is I was astroturfing as a crazy leftist. And that really, it just like, it hit a nerve. And that's kind of what I started to do. I called it culture jamming, where the thing that I was making fun of, I would just impersonate it. And I think that's the best way, is just putting a mirror like what Caitlin does, just letting them talk. You just put the camera in front of their face and let them talk. And I kind of did that same thing where I just adopted their personality and went out and spoke publicly. And that's what worked for me the most. So.
Thank you. Angela?
Yeah, I think, you know, less is more a lot when it comes to posts. When I'm just doing like text posts, it's like I try to not be so wordy. You know, it can be quicker and punchier. But then also just visuals, I think, are really something that's worked well. Most of my content that has done really well or gone viral has been videos dancing, videos walking, songs. Yeah, so any of that, I think, and just knowing the platform that you're trying to, you know, want to be your main platform, because every platform is different and it's also always changing. So do your research about what tends to be successful on that platform, and, you know, again, to the point that people's attention spans are pretty small, so trying to keep videos like under 10 seconds kind of a thing.
Oh, and one thing I want to say that Scarlett said at the beginning that I really wanted to really agreed with, Scarlett, is guys, if you guys do want to start making content, the more organic and less produced it looks, the better. Like, people don't want overproduced stuff. Really, when they're watching it, they want to seem like it's really coming from you and not some editor. So don't be afraid to just start making content, even if you don't know how to edit, you don't know how to do stuff. I'm telling you, the less production value sometimes works the best.
And with that, the original content we'll go to now is Q&A. Yeah. We're all going to mob you and take selfies and ask questions at the same time. It's going to be a riot. But I think I'm going to hop down and hand the microphone over to people, and then you guys can keep this one up, and then we'll get these other two chairs, and our 6 panelists will be up here. Maybe we go single file line to come up here. That might work. I hold the mic. We need no more Alex Stein practices in the ballroom.
No, not today.
Come on up.
Is that enough space?
I know, right? We got everybody? All right.
Okay.
Come on, don't be shy. Come down,
Right.
ask questions. Don't be shy.
So I don't know my question, because I think the magazine, you should definitely do an article about this. But it's about the documentary of Gloria Vanderbilt. Gloria Vanderbilt is the mother of Anderson Cooper. I grew up in Puerto Rico. The Condado Vanderbilt, there's a picture of her when she was a baby with her mom. And like, I bought her jeans right when they came in Costco, when they were there. But I've always, you know, had a curiosity how, you know, so much tragedy with a woman with so much money and stuff like that. And in her documentary, if you look at, she grew up without her mother, basically with a nanny and stuff like that. And she mentions, because she was a big donor and a big activist in this whole LGBTQ whatever, because her son was the flag carrier of the LGBTQ, and now he has a Colombian caregiver who's really pretty, and there's kind of like,
And what's her name again that she should research?
Gloria Vanderbilt. She has a
Yeah.
documentary, Nothing Left Unsaid. but I just want to add one more this. I'm a millennial, and in my generation is really where this whole LGBTQ thing exploded. And I have a lot of friends, girlfriends who,
Question?
oh, well, my question is, would you guys look to investigate into, all these big donors, like, for example, Gloria Vanderbilt, who invest a lot of money to the LGBTQ Foundation, where their purpose comes from? Because she says in her documentary, sex is what saved her. So I wonder if this whole LGBTQ thing is a sex-driven,
I think we could. So Jamie, do you think you might investigate her?
Yeah, and I think she was asking about these organizations. So I'm going to give a quick example. The NFL the other day, which I'm a big NFL fan, I'm a Raiders fan, unfortunately they never win, but they partnered with the Trevor Project, and a lot of these LGBT organizations are targeting your kids in school, and you think it says happy thing empowering people. No, they are in chat rooms sending, grooming type disgusting content to children and pushing them into this gender confusion and dysphoria. So a lot of these organizations, Planned Parenthood, are terrible in this, and it does need to be investigated, and it's infiltrating your schools, and it's a part of your curriculum.
I want to say one thing. A lot of people say I'm anti-LGBTQ, and that's impossible because I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. So I get to celebrate Pride Month 17 weeks of the year. So.
All right. Make sure, because time is short, just ask a question. First of all, thank you all for coming here and giving us this information. I would just like to know which medium you feel is best for someone who wants to do what you're doing.
Twitter for me.
Twitter?
Or X. But I'll let them answer.
Yeah, well, it depends on what content you want to make. If you want to make long form content, it's YouTube. Short form, TikTok or Instagram. If you want to be, newsworthy, you want to type, X. Does anyone have anything to add?
I think X is the best because you can go viral more organically. You just need one big person to share it. Instagram is great. I think it's very important, but it's a little harder to go viral. So, like, if you're just starting out, definitely post it on X. But Gates has a lot of success,
If you want women, I would do Instagram or TikTok.
I get the impression that X is more to inform and Instagram's more to entertain. So like my show clips crush on Instagram, and then I write a weekly op-ed for the Daily Wire and a weekly op-ed for Blaze. They crush on X. So that's just the vibe that I've gotten. Inform, entertain. Obviously they blend together, but that's how I'm having success on each.
Anyone else want to chime in on that? Thank you.
So real quick, thank you guys for being here. I wanted to touch on something that we mentioned just a little bit ago about when people are kind of throwing hate at you guys. So as someone as a Moms for Liberty chapter chair, but I'm also chair of my county GOP, I've gotten a lot of hate. Just this last week, I had a text from somebody calling me trailer trash, who is my former House rep. How do you, maybe specifically to the moms, how do you take that and protect your kids from that? Because mine are teens, and they are seeing that come at me, and unfortunately, they're receiving some of that as well. So what is your advice for that?
Okay. I think you have to think about it in terms of not the consequences you might receive from all of this and the hate, but what are the consequences of not doing it? And so if you go to school board meetings and you're getting a lot of hate, okay, well, what are the consequences? What are the real consequences of not going to school board meetings, not receiving that hate? Because we're kind of like shields to our children, right? So let it come to you, wipe it off, whatever, and know that you're protecting your children. We would do, as moms and dads, we would do anything for our children. And that includes being called trailer trash. Oh, well, it's like calling the moon cheese. We know it's not true. So it's not true. Okay, well, whatever. You're not going to indoctrinate my kids today. You can call me trailer trash.
I would just say if they hate it, you've made it, right? They only hate the truth. And the first time I got hate, it was somebody DMing me saying, I'm going to murder your wife and daughter. I mean, rape your wife and daughter. And first of all, like, I can't even take that seriously, but I was like, I showed it to my wife. I'm like, good news and bad news. Bad news, but I think I made it. We don't put any pictures of I don't, I put pictures of family on my Instagram, but I put little emojis over my kids' faces. I don't let anybody see my kids' identity, but I'll just say that a big deal with hate is how you respond to it. You can fuel that fire or you can shine light on it. So just be careful with not getting into too much of the nasty back and forth. The other thing you can do is publicize it. You see a lot of screenshots people now put up of DMs with the person's account, and people go after them. So they're doing it out in the public, make it more public.
Gates, that's exactly what I do, actually. I think that you have to expect the hate if you're going to come online as a conservative. And I actually have on my Instagram a little highlight. It's called Haters, and I shine light on them. I think that I enjoy sharing their content because there's so much hate from them. So I think we just have to expect it.
I think actually this is a great example for your kids, that people are throwing hate at you, but you're standing up and you're being brave and you're being courageous, and you show your children every day, I will not let these losers get me down. I'm going to keep fighting, and sticks and stones. I think when you're a strong person and you're a beautiful, strong woman, and keep at it. And I'm so proud of you, and we need more women like you in this country.
And as a representative of Moms for Liberty who receives much hate, don't respond to it. If it's really bad like that, I screenshot that and I use that to my advantage and rally that to your cause. And if they really go after you a lot, say, I'm not that into you.
Hi, my name is Eve. We spoke a lot, y'all spoke a lot about using your voices for the kids, but I'm curious what you say about the kids who want, or younger people who want to use their voice, but they're worried about opportunities or future jobs or things that it might affect.
Maybe let's start with Angela.
Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah, I'm gonna let somebody else start. I'm gonna think about that one.
We need to teach courage. Courage is contagious. Our kids are the succession plan for this country. So we need to help them form their voices. If a 14, 15, 16-year-old goes out and just says what's on their mind, we have a responsibility to help shape the way they say those things. Might not be that we disagree with it, but we can help shape them and inform them to have the appropriate voice. But what we can't do is allow the world to talk to our kids and not allow them to talk back. So we should encourage them to shape their voice. And there's consequences to having the values that we share. And if that's a job or that's some sort of professional thing, probably not a place you want to work anyways. I always got the advice when I was starting out in a career that what you do is very important, but who you're doing it with is more important. You can have the greatest job in the world, but if you're doing it with terrible people, you'll hate it. So by promoting your values, that will attract others that share those values and will actually make you attractive to more crowds.
I agree. I say don't take the opportunity. Whatever opportunity can come from not being who you are, don't take it. You don't need it.
And I would say this, as long as you're not posting that, crazy of stuff, people might get offended by it, but the doors that it closes, there's going to be more doors that open because of it. So.
And I would say it's so important to do things that are out of your comfort zone, within reason, not pushing yourself too far to where it's but I think embracing discomfort is so important, and then just relying on support system and having, people to kind of boost your confidence and be there for you if, things don't go so well.
Oh, okay. Hi, yeah. Is there a science to getting a post to go viral? Is there any kind of method you guys use?
I was just saying my method, I said it earlier, kind of like astroturfing as a crazy liberal, but Caitlin, her clips always go viral. I hate to say it, you need to film somebody going crazy. There's other ways to go viral, but I think that's the instant thing. The more a person crashes out, the more likely it is to go viral. And you can see Caitlin, the people crash out on her clips, they crash out on mine, and that's why they get a lot of views.
Since he's talking about me, I'll add to that. You also, again, you have to know your stuff. So when they're going crazy, if you're just actually, this is the truth, what do you think about that? And then they usually crash out. But it depends on what type of content you're doing. So if you're trying to debate people, that's the way you should go. Or if you want to sit in front of a camera, you've got to be authentic and you've got to be,
Get it out quickly, too. Have a good hook.
Yeah.
Have a good hook that catches people, and then say it quickly. People are scrolling so quickly. Just say what you got to say pretty quickly. I just had a post the other day, though, that I hadn't posted in a few days, so I just randomly posted this rant going off about the No Kings protest this weekend. And I thought, nobody's gonna like this one. I'm just ranting, whatever. I got over 1 million views in 24 hours on Facebook and then another 1 million on Instagram. And I didn't even think that post was going to do well. So yeah, I say good hook, get it out quickly. And yeah, I don't know though what's gonna make it go viral. I don't have that answer, but that's my advice.
Shorter content usually goes more viral too. You know, like a video, 90 seconds, usually something over 90 seconds. Like a podcast usually doesn't ever go viral, but a clip from that podcast does. So.
Also stay relevant.
Yeah.
Don't talk about something that happened 2 years ago. So be in know with the news.
And just a little bit of trial and error. Like you really don't always know, but you might as well, like, if you have an idea, go for it, and you'll quickly learn what the audience responds to.
Good question. Really good question. We have 3 more questions.
Thank you, guys. How do you avoid a defamation suit? I'll just ask.
Well, I mean, I actually do a lot of suing. Though seriously, I've sued. I've actually won 2 lawsuits. I lost one. I sued New York for them kicking me out of a city council meeting. But no, particularly, how do I protect myself? I usually say allegedly, and I try to use humor. But I have been threatened a lot of times with a lot of lawsuits, and I think I've only had one filed against me, and we got it dismissed. But I don't know. I just try to say allegedly and use humor. I don't know what you guys use to shield yourself from. But you guys maybe don't go after people like I do, so I don't know. What do you do? Do you guys ever have legal issues, Gates? Do you?
Speak the truth.
Yeah.
You can't attack truth. You can't sue truth. I mean, that's been my thing the whole time. You can try. You can try.
I mean, I just had a video I made recently about a woman who was threatening the children of ICE agents. And so I made a video about her, and she DM'd me and let me know that she would be filing suit and coming for me. And I said, well, let me know if you need my address. I actually really hope that someone tries to sue me soon, because I think it'd be a great, it would make the news. And
That is a good way to go viral.
Can you message me though? I'd love to like make a video about that and help you. I mean, I don't.
I'm sorry, she basically took my question. But do you have, I'm an attorney, do you have any attorneys on staff for yourselves, standing in the wings, waiting? You do? Yeah. I saw the big booty Latina thing
I
with
have
AOC.
that one.
That was beautiful.
And he's an awesome Jewish attorney, so do not mess with him. No, but yeah, I have one on standby. I don't know if these people do, but I have one that, I call him 2 times a day, sadly. I call him too much.
Does anyone else have an attorney on standby? You're just not doing it right then. Last question for this panel. Caitlin, did you want to add something?
Oh no, just when cops try to remove me from public property, yes, I have an attorney for that.
And that's right, like my lawsuits have been against like the city for kicking me out of public places. So it's kind of the same thing, like Caitlin gets kicked out of the public park. It's like the same thing where we have to kind of file a lawsuit. Usually we drop it or whatever, but yeah, I'm usually on the offensive side of legal stuff.
Thank you.
Hi, so Caitlin, I'm a fellow Golden Flash, so I totally want a picture with you when this is over. Yeah, you graduated like 3 years behind me. I do have a question. I said, could I take a picture with her? And then Alex, can I take a picture with you and my husband? Because yeah. Okay, great.
It's just
okay.
$5.
Okay, yeah.
I'm kidding.
Venmo
I'm
you.
kidding.
Okay, but my last question. I talk really fast, Roslyn. It's fine. My last question is: my kids and my husband beg me every day to quit. So the haters don't bother me at all. They bother my kids. What do I do?
Well, I'll tell you this much. When I first started speaking at city councils, and my dad was really embarrassed about it, and he told me to stop. He's like, "You're an idiot. Stop doing that." And his mom, my grandmother, used to go and speak at city council meetings and yell and scream. And then I became very successful doing it. So even your family members don't always know the right choice to make. So just kind of be unapologetically yourself, but don't alienate yourself from your family because they have your back. So it's kind of like this natural line. You don't want to alienate them, but also you kind of got to be yourself and realize that they might not see the same vision that you see. So keep trying.
How old are your kids? Oh, so they're so young. They don't know better right now. They're going to be very proud of you one day. Really, they are. They don't know better, and they're sad because they love their mommy and they don't like seeing people being mean to their mommy. And I promise you, once they're old enough to understand, they're going to be so proud of you for standing up and saving this country. And all of your kids are going to be proud of that. Just give it time. Give it a little time. Kids have a hard time with stuff sometimes.
Yes. Well, what we're going to do is one more thing. There's a bio up here. You can scan the QR code to get their bios, and they're leaving you with some of their tips and tricks so that way you have a tangible. And let's give them a round of applause, please. Thank you so much to our panelists.
I want to say one thing because it's true. I am right now in a lawsuit for calling a teacher a woke white woman with a God complex, but I didn't back down. They really went after me, but my family stood behind me, and I have a great attorney, a public defense. No, I mean, Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty took my case, and it's in appeals. It's been 3 years, but I refused to quit. You cannot quit.
And if you would like to get a photo with one of our amazing content creators, they're going to be in Sunroom 5, so we'll have a line forming out there. And thank you so much. I hope you learned at least one thing from them today.